we do have a little bit tentative plan and the content. So overall, we'll talk about all these items. We start with what is risk. Then we focus on how do we come up with a risk management strategy. Then we focus on what is risk management plan. When we talk about risk management plan, we will also explore a sample risk management plan. So that's a little unique about the program. It is just not about just talking definitions and the terms. We try to see how practically it can get used and what is a possible way as a template we can use. Then we talk about identify risk. We do have a risk register with four risk as an example. So we do want to read them, understand those risk register elements, and really see the risk. Yeah, so that's something we'll do as an identify risk. We can talk and explore risk when we are talking in the class. And then we talk about assessment, qualitative and quantitative assessment. We can probably explore various idea related to them. And then, yes, the bigger thing which we do is a risk response planning. Yeah, so that's something we also plan. Yeah, all these things, analysis, risk response planning, and identify risk is well covered in the risk register template as well. Some of you who might be following me already on social media might have seen those templates already. As a deliverable, I will share this booklet, which contains all the theory, whatever I am speaking in the class. It has those details. Yeah, so it's around 15 pages book, 15 to 18 page book, which has a summary of various content. That's the one thing I will share after the session. And we do have something called risk management plan. So this is a long document. If you have already received in my social media account, then great. Else we'll share it. I'll also explain you what is this risk management plan. And another document which I use to explain this particular topic is a risk register. So we do have a filled risk register, just not a upper template. We have a risk, we talk about various columns, various terminologies attached to it. And then we look at what is the action and comments associated with this particular risk here. Ideally, these two documents, like a risk management plan and risk register, takes care of the primary core risk learning. There is nothing much left once we done with these two topics. Yeah. Now, yes, we do want to talk about risk management, but just to connect everyone, have an understanding of what is project and project management. So say the whole idea of a project, we can call it project is a temporary initiative. Project is something you do for a while, a special set of activities which produce unique results. Yeah, that's something is the project. Now, for example, if you are running say a restaurant, yeah, you keep selling the food and other things all the time, that is not a project. That is something your day-to-day work. But if you want to introduce a new menu, if you want to introduce a new coffee corner, if you are not selling coffee, if you want to design some technical solution there, you may want to introduce an app or a customer loyalty program for your customer. You will start with a project. You can say, okay, we want to introduce a customer loyalty program. There has to be an app created, and whoever comes into the restaurant, we need to promote our app download. Yeah, and this will happen for a while, and after that, it will become a day-to-day job. Now it is no more a project-specific activity. So this kind of thing is called project. It is something you do it for a while. So do it for a while is an important area. And because it's not a usual thing, it is not something that, oh, I have done it yesterday, I will do it tomorrow, I will do it next year also, I will do after 2 years also. If that is happening, then it's more like we call it business as usual. We also call it operational work. It is more like repetitive job, which you are doing. It is not a project. So project by nature is uncertain. Yeah, because you have not done exactly the same thing before. There is a new equation. Selling a burger in a restaurant is something you have been selling yesterday, you will sell today. But setting an app for a restaurant, you don't do setting of an app for your restaurant very usually. It's a special thing. You need to make sure the app is compatible with the organization expectation, with the customer expectation. It is easy to download. You may have some specific characteristics. People have a specific kind of queries. It is not something like you sell burger every day. You need to make that app happen. And once it becomes usual, it is no more a project. Yeah. So that is a starting point. Now, in this particular whole term, since it's a project, it has to be start and end. Yeah. And there has to be trigger for start and end. Now, sometimes this is the thing which becomes different from agile way of working in a pure manner. In a pure agile world, we expect the work will continue without interruption. We will have a product backlog and we will continue working on the product backlog all the time. Yeah, that's the basic assumption of agile way of working. Assumption may not work in a practical world. But when we do project management and we use agile in it, we can say we still have a starting point. Now, starting point could be maybe you have a business idea. If you are working for yourself, that could be a starting point. If you are working for a service company, as Amol was pointing out, you could be getting an order from somewhere. Yeah, you may got a contract. Your salespeople may have done a deal. They are saying that, okay, this is something, this is a website we have to make for someone. Yeah, and for that, we need to initiate a project. Now, with a business idea or a contract, you may have an internal group. We call them PMO, or someone who is taking care of project management and related activity. And they may initiate and say, guys, you need to do this particular idea. There is a high level work we need to do, and you need to initiate a project. In our project management language, that thing is called project charter. So they will issue a project charter and you will get started with the overall tracking and management of the risk, project, and then it will include the risk management as well. So that is where the project starts. Yeah. Any question till here before I get into a little more detail?
Oh, that's good. I'm good.
Yeah,
Good.
I'm good.
Yeah, great. Now, in the predictive way of working, which is our major focus today for a risk management. Yeah. So once you have a project charter, you need to get into the details. Yeah. So you will get into requirements, you will get into scope, you will get into aspects related to budget. Yeah. You may need to take care of quality policies. You may need to take care of outside help. You may need to make sure that your people, stakeholder and other people are taken care. Yeah, you to develop them, manage them, communicate and all. So all these aspects has to be taken care. Now, whenever you are working on these areas, something can go wrong. There is uncertainty attached because it is not very proven. Uncertainty is always attached, but there are more uncertainty attached because you are working in a project management space. You are working in a temporary endeavor space. You are working in a space where things are not very much repeatable. Now, all these uncertainties, management is called risk management. We can say, okay, we need to achieve what we want to achieve in the project, and something can go wrong. And I need to make sure that those things are not managed in such a manner so that we achieve our project objectives. So yes, there are other areas. Risk management is not the only thing, but anything which we are doing, I'm identifying requirement, I'm doing design, I'm doing scoping, I'm doing various things, they can go differently than my initially planned. So I need to manage uncertainty to achieve my project objectives. Yeah. And that is a risk management as a topic. Yeah. That's something we do. Now somebody will say, okay, don't we have to do the same thing in the agile way of working? The answer is you have to do, though my original content was not planned for agile, but we can talk a little bit and we can mix. So in the agile way of working, our whole idea is that we are working in a more risky area. So in general, we use iterative and incremental way of working when we are more unsure about what we are going to achieve, what we are going to develop. We have to still evolve. Our requirements are evolving, our technology is evolving. So the uncertainties are more. And in order to take care of those uncertainties, what we have done, we have taken a iterative approach. We can say, okay, we will take 2 weeks or a particular duration iteration, and we will take a portion of our product backlog in the iteration, and we will do it. And based on the feedback, we will improve our work. Yeah, so I'm assuming this picture both of you know is because you already have agile and project management experience. So we can say in the agile way of working, rather than creating a detailed requirement document, we have a living requirement document. Yeah, we'll living requirements, maybe not call it document, and we call it product backlog. So product backlog can be visualized as a list, can be visualized as a collection of ideas. This is something you are evolving, making all the time. And these ideas might be wrong. That's a risk. They may not make the desired impact. And that's why you are making and implementing them piece by piece. Yeah, something you are doing. So you take a piece, some small portion of the requirement, you develop them, demonstrate it, collect the feedback, and correct yourself. Yeah. So every 2 week you correct yourself. And that is sometime in the agile word, we use a word inspect and adapt. Yeah. So you keep changing your direction. So that way the risk is taken care because you are not planning too much ahead in time. But whatever technique we will run, those may be needed first to ensure that we are going as per plan inside the iteration or a sprint. So when we do a small time box planning, yeah, in our iteration planning meeting, we need to identify what possibly can go wrong and we need to track that throughout the iteration. Now, when we are talking about what possibly can go wrong, we are focusing on current iteration. We can say, okay, we have this 2 weeks time. This is the goal we are taking. If something can go wrong, we need to change our direction. So we need to plan for that. We plan it in an iteration planning meeting. We will discuss it in a daily stand up. And once the iteration is over, we may do a retrospective about our risk management approach. That's something we do continuously. And when we do a demonstration of review or a sprint review slash iteration review, the people may think about long term risks. They will say, oh, what can happen next month? What could be we need to doing? So for a long term risk, we need to discuss them and probably we'll discuss them in an iteration review as well as in a backlog refinement. Yeah. So we do that conversation as a backlog refinement, and the impact of it will be going into a product backlog. We may add new items, we may prioritize items, which will take care of our risks. Yeah. So I would say the common terminology about risk is same. It's an uncertain event. It requires assessment. It requires prioritization. It requires response strategies, which will be relevant for agile and non-agile. Same. The only thing is the type of way you work. In a predictive life cycle, you are more documentation oriented. You have a lot of information in advance. In the adaptive life cycle, the same activities you will do inside your sprint cycle. You can say, okay, we are making sprint on sprint working. And at the end of a sprint, we will explore something long term. And inside the sprint, we will focus on something short term. Yeah. So this is where our risk management practices will fit. Yeah. So if this is good, then I get started with what is risk.
Yeah, I'm good.
Good, good. Yeah.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start talking about what is risk. Yeah. Maybe before I start, some of you may want to give an example. What is risk? Yeah. Or maybe define a terminology.
Yeah, it's a potential problem that could occur in a near future.
Okay. So you can say potential problem. Yeah. Which
That
can
may
come. Yeah.
occur.
Which may come. Yeah. Which may come in near future. Great. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Now here, if you are going for an interview, most likely this is the risk. Yeah. That will take care of it. Yeah. That's the thing. But in case of PMP exam, yeah, there is a little special trick. So they talk
Mhm.
about positive and negative risk. Yeah. So they say rather than potential problem, they just generalize it. They are saying a probable event, which is a potential event. Yeah, you can just use the same language. Okay. Potential event, not a problem. Yeah. Which may have impact on project. Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's a what they are changing. Now this event, yeah, can have now if event has negative impact, yeah, we call it threat usually. Yeah. If it has positive impact, we call it opportunity.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But in our PMP language, these all is risk. Yeah. So that's a little specific thing. Yeah. Special to PMP. But in general, risks are usually more associated with threats. Yeah. People who are not using proper project management framework, they may be attaching the risk with the threat more rather than the opportunity. Yeah. So that's how we work on it.
Okay. Yeah, one question here.
Please.
So just relating with the SWOT analysis, the opportunity threat, we are calling it as risk. How about the weakness? Weakness, is it a risk?
So it's like this. So if we just take an example, so let's take a little extension and we can say, how do we identify risk? Yeah. And one of the mechanism of identification of risk could be a SWOT analysis. Yeah.
Okay.
We can call it SWOT analysis. This is one of the way of doing it. Yeah. Now, what is this SWOT analysis? So it is saying in the organization, we need to focus on 4 parameters. What is our strength? What is our weakness? What are the opportunities? And what are our threats? Sometimes used in the form of a column. Now, it is something focusing on internal and external factor. Yeah. So strength, let's put it somewhere. Now, what is strength? Something which is internal to us and makes us strong. Yeah, that's the current situation. For example, we have a good team. Yeah, that could be a strength. We can have a good market demand. That could be, no, market demand won't. The good team is a strength. Market demand will be an opportunity. Yeah. So we have a good team. We may have a technical skills. Yeah. We may have a nice process templates. We have a historical data. All these are strength. Yeah, we have it. Now, the another things is weakness. We lack something in the current space. So say we have new team member, or we may say that we have say poor skills, something like that. So these are your weaknesses. Now somebody will say how the strength and weaknesses might connect to risk. Yeah, that's there. So say if you have a strength, you may be able to exploit some of the opportunities. Yeah, you might be able to take care of some of your problems, threats. Yeah, so that could be connected to risk, but usually the opportunities and threats are more directly connected to the risk. Let's see. Yeah, so we can say, what is opportunity? Opportunity is something which is external. It is not something under your control. External, but positive. So say there is a good market demand. There is a good technology work, new version of technology is coming in, which can possibly reduce our manpower cost. Yeah, that's an opportunity. Or we have an opportunity to save cost by doing something. Yeah, so that is something, is a situation. It's a surrounding situation. Now, similarly, the surrounding situation is around negative side of it. We call it threat. So SWOT talks about internal and external analysis. Now, many a time, these tools are directly contributing to the risk, opportunities and threats. That's anyway there. Opportunity is a positive risk, threats is a negative risk. Now, strength maybe increases the probability of an opportunity become reality. Yeah, so you can say that there is a strength and we have a good technological skill, we can exploit it. Yeah, so that's there. Weakness can create a impact on exploiting an opportunity or impact on exploiting the threat. So you can say the strength and weakness may be a factor in evaluating the probability and impact of the risk. Yeah. So say if we have an opportunity of new technology, if we have a strength, we can say we can make it possible. The using the technology to save money, we can highly do it because we have a strength. If we have a weakness, then our probability is zero. Do there is an opportunity, but our strength is not there. We are weak in the technical area. Even if the opportunity is presented to us, we cannot exploit it. Yeah. So strength and weakness focus on internal factor, opportunity and threat focus on external factor, and all of them can be impacting our risk. Yeah, that's a possibility.
Okay.
One of the technique. Yeah. Good.
I mean, any reason like why we are saying opportunity as a risk? I mean, even though we call it as a positive risk,
So in
it's
the
going to add a benefit.
project management world, it is a similar nature. It's an uncertain thing which requires tracking. Yeah, it is not something real. So there are two possibilities in our project management. We may create two artifacts. One is an opportunity list and another is a threat list. Yeah, that's a possible. In the PMP style, they says make a one document because both are uncertain event and probably you track them, manage them as a same document. So when you are reviewing the negative event, you can review the positive events also. Yeah, that's the only thing. So they call it risk.
Okay.
Yeah, uncertain.
Thank you.
Good. Anything else still here?
I'm good.
Yeah, good, good. So we get what is risk. So it's an uncertain event which has an impact on us. Yeah. So we can say the risk has a two element. One element is called probability, how likely this is going to happen. That's a probability. And another uh, uncertain
Impact.
event is impact. Yeah. Yeah. So that's something defines the risk. You can say risk is something which is having probability and the impact. Yeah. That's your thing. Sometimes you also multiply probability and impact and come up with something called risk score. We will learn it. Yeah. But that's the whole idea to start with. Yeah. Now, when we say, okay, there is a risk, so let's talk about some of the examples of the risk before we go into the theory. Yeah. So let's say, give me some examples. Yeah, probably we'll explore. Are they risk?
A critical resource leaving a project.
Okay. Maybe you can say critical engineer leaving the project. Okay, that could be a one risk. Yes. Anything else? One risk is here. Now, in interviews and all, that could be another question. People will say, share 5 risks or share some of the recent risk you have faced. Yeah,
Oh,
so
okay.
we should be ready with the list. Yeah. We should be good ready with the risk because that also shows. So, like as Amol was making a point, say PMP exam is not going to ask you show me the list of the risk. Yeah, you will clear the exam just by understanding what is a risk and how probably you react on it. But when you go for interviews and all, they will ask you about the examples of the risk. That's there. So PMP exam is very superficial testing of your project management skill. It is not very deep. Yeah. When you go in the interviews, you need to go far, far deeper. Yeah, that's something is there. So yeah, critical person leaving the risk, maybe many a time.
I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
I have a point. Like, I'm not sure.
You got muted. Yeah, unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead, Amke.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not sure, like, whether it is a problem or a risk. So my team is not meeting the velocity consistently. So it's going up and down. The velocity is not constant. Is it
Is
a
it a risk
risk
or
or a
not?
problem? I see it as a problem, concern.
Okay, now we need to see. And that's the whole reason of me doing this activity because theoretically I can explain and still we may remain a little curious and confused. So say you have your team performance, let's use a
Mm,
generic word, yeah, is not consistent.
correct. Yeah.
Sometime it is high and sometime it is low. Yeah.
Yep.
Is it a risk?
So the predictability factor. So we couldn't arrive with the predictability. So at a certain PI or a certain period, we do not know how much we will be able to accomplish it.
Okay. Yeah.
And
So
so we're
yeah.
missing that. So we have planned for to deliver on certain items by so and so timeline, but we are not able to meet it. At that impacts customers' reputations and everything.
Okay. So you can say that because of it, we are unable to predict future work because their
Correct. Yeah.
performance is poor. So because of that, we are unable to find out the future work. Now, again, we are asking a question, is it a risk? Yeah. So it depends. It may not be if it's a reality. As you or we are discussed in our previous section, is it a probable event or is it a real event? Yeah. So if it is
Hmm.
happening really, that you can say you have a poor performance or a unpredictable performance, and because of that unpredictable performance, you are unable to predict, then in our project management, we will call it issue. We can say we have an issue, and issue also has an impact. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And I definitely need to do something about it. I need to definitely take corrective or preventive action.
Okay.
Yeah. I need to correct this thing. That's there. Yeah. But it is not risk. Yeah. Now, when it can become a risk, when you are dreaming about it in future, you can say We just did a 2 iteration,
Mm-hmm.
and you are thinking maybe my team performance may not remain consistent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, I have one question.
Please, yeah, go ahead.
When we have any risk, so we have to go with corrective action first, or we have to go with the preventive action first?
Yeah. So thing is that you definitely do corrective and then you do preventive, but you don't take these actions when you have a risk. Yeah.
Mitigate.
These are issue actions. Yeah. So try to understand, and that's the important factor for our day-to-day language as well as for PMP exam. Something is wrong is no more a risk. It is a reality. And that thing we call it issue. And when something is wrong, I better fix that wrong. I fix that wrong and then make sure this wrong doesn't happen again. Yeah. So when my team performance is unpredictable, I says, what do we do now so that it becomes predictable? And how do I ensure so this situation does not get repeated after 2 months? Yeah. So that's a corrective and preventive action. But it is more associated with issues. It is more associated with defects. It is more associated with something which is clearly visible to you. And that's the difference between issue and risk as well.
Got it, sir.
Good, good. Now, when it can become a risk, a team performance may not remain consistent. You can say you are planning your team may not remain consistent over period of 3 months. You can say right now, first iteration is done, but they have produced a good result, but they may not produce a good result after 3 months. They may be inconsistent after that. We can say, okay, what will happen? We can say, I will may not be able to make a long-term forecast. Okay, yeah, probably. Then what do I do? So this doesn't happen. Yeah, now we have a situation at hand. So we are doing some mitigation or some actions which will not make the team perform in an inconsistent way. So you may say, okay, we make sure team follows standard practices. They don't take shortcuts and other things, maybe. And I probably want to train them. Yeah, that could be another action I want to do. And I want to have a consistent DOD, probably. Or maybe I want to have a good code base. So now all these things you are doing to prevent something which could come if you don't do it and now. Yeah. So these are the possible actions. We call them mitigate action. We'll learn about them. Yeah. Which you are taking to make sure that this risk doesn't occur. Yeah. It has not occurred yet. The team is not yet showing the bad inconsistent performance. You are proactive about it. And that's the core difference between risk and issue.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Good. Anything else still here before we take few more example of the risk?
I'm good, sir.
Great, great, great.
So where do we assess the risk here? So in terms of you said like impact and the probability of the event, right? So do we consider those things here?
Yeah. So there will be steps. We can say, yes, we do consider. So how do we do risk? So we can say first we do a risk identification. Then we do a kind of planning for the risk. Then we do assessment. We do a quantitative and qualitative assessment step by step. And we may put all these things in an artifact called risk register. Yeah. So that's something we do. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So right now we just learned what is risk and we took some examples of identify risk, some, yeah, but we'll do more. That's something we are doing. Good. Yeah. Now, before we move further, and probably you gave this risk to your management, potentially this person will leave and we can create a problem. Your management will say, don't raise these kind of issues. Yeah, those raise these kind of risks. These are normal. Yeah, you should do some important work rather than getting worried about people leaving and all this. In a one company, in another company, they may appreciate this is you have done a good risk identification. We need to take care of this guy. Yeah. So say there is no absolute definition of what should be called risk and what should be just taken care on a day-to-day basis. You are going to office, you may get delayed by 1 hour, but you may not want to create a risk for it. Yeah. But if that is a day where you need to give a critical demo at 9 a.m. after reaching the office, then you probably need to worry about, what if I don't reach at 9 a.m., then I will miss the critical demo. Then that becomes a risk. Yeah, maybe you have a particular situation which you need to plan. But on a day-to-day basis, you don't plan going to office and getting delayed by 1 hour. You don't plan a risk for it. So when do we really start working on these uncertainties? The uncertain events are always there. Every moment you are dealing with the uncertainty, but when this uncertainty required taking care, when it does not require taking care, I need to work as per my organization style. And here our comes with something called risk management strategy and risk management plan. Yeah, so that is something we are exploring. So when we talk about risk management strategy, so we need to talk about what my organization feel about risk. Yeah, so I go with this content, which we are anyway going to use. So creating a risk strategy, just as a here. So you can say we need to understand as my company how they want to be sensitive to various things which can go wrong. Yeah, at an individual risk level, at an overall project level. There could be a space where they say this project itself is risky, we don't want to work on it. So how my organization see it? So we use a word called risk appetite and risk threshold. These are two words we use. So what is risk appetite? Risk appetite is a very generic word we use to show that how much hungry you are for the risk. Yeah. You maybe say in a startup word, organization might be risk-seeking company. We can say, oh, we need to take a risk. Things can go wrong. We need to try it out. We need to make a customer delivery. Even if there is a defect, no problem. We still make a delivery. We'll see the issue later if the defect comes in. So there could be organization who might be taking risk to achieve some higher benefits. Yeah, that could be a mindset. In those companies, if I talk about small risks, they will say, what are you doing? These are the things we take care every day. Don't talk about them. If I present to a management small risk, they will say, please, don't waste our time. That's a possibility. Now, the reverse could be risk averse. Risk averse is usually a very, say, structured organization, very old organization where they have lots of money, they have a lot of bureaucracy, compliances, like you may have a financial sector, healthcare sector, a bank. Yeah. Bank might work in a risk averse approach. We can say, guys, we need to avoid risks. Yeah. We need to make sure that things are not going wrong. We need to commit to the customer as per our confidence level. We don't want to do something which is not achievable. So that's the mindset. Now somebody will say, why should I worry? Because you are a project manager. You need to maintain and identify risk, and you need to match the frequency of your language with the stakeholder culture, organization culture. So I need to understand in this company for this particular project, what is the attitude towards the risk? Now there could be a risk neutral attitude also, where people say it depends upon risks and rewards. Yeah. So we will be taking care of moderate risk. We will not be taking care of more risk. So we are not too fanatic about not doing risk. We are not too fanatic about doing risk. We take a balanced approach. We take a middle path. That's we can call it risk neutral. We are not looking for risk and we are not avoiding risk. But this is my first point. We can say, oh, I need to strategize how this company operates. So what I can do, I can study the culture of the organization. If I'm a new project manager, in our project management language, we call it enterprise environmental factor. I can talk to my PMOs and understand what is their expectation related to risk management process. That's something I can do. I can ask to my key stakeholders about their attitude towards risk. So that helps me in identifying high level understanding, how much hunger they have for the risk. It's a little subjective, but I'm understanding. Now, based on that understanding, I may come up with a specific word. Yeah. Specific word, which is called, we can say we will identify something called risk threshold. So risk threshold is something we are saying a term above which risk may require some kind of tracking. Yeah. Below which maybe you can say you can avoid it. You don't have to worry about that. Yeah. So say if a given risk can create a delay of more than 10 days, for example, then probably you need to record it as a risk. If a given risk can create delay of more than 1 month, then you need to probably escalate that risk. That's not acceptable. We need to talk about it. Yeah. But if a risk is an impact of 1 or 2 days, you probably don't have to record it. If the risk has an impact of up to 5 days, you probably have to record it, but monitor it at a local level. Management may not want to look into it very critically. So we are talking about various clarity about it, so that when I am doing my risk management planning, I am guided by that. I can say, okay, this kind of risk is not requiring tracking. This kind of risk required detailed tracking. So we call these terms as a risk appetite, which is like a feeling of risk. This document will be with you, so you don't have to worry about it. And then we talk about a risk threshold, which is a more specific thing. So risk threshold is a multiplication. So we can say, how do we identify risk threshold? In a simplistic manner, for each and every risk, we multiply probability and impact, and that will give us a score. We call it exposure. And then we know if the score is coming below a certain number, you probably don't have to worry about a risk. If it is going beyond a certain number, you need to escalate it. If it is in between, you need to probably do some action around it, mitigation or avoidance, some action around it. We'll get into detail, but overall, we need to understand when should we start worrying about risk. So I am talking to people at a feeling level. How do you feel about risk? What is your attitude towards the risk? We can say, are you risk seeker or you are a risk avoider? And once I have an understanding of attitude, we can say, okay, let's create a bucket. What kind of risk required critical monitoring need to be discussed in each and every status meeting? What kind of risk may be just kept at a lower level? I will keep eye on it. And what are the things which we probably don't even record as a risk register? Yeah, so that's something we are creating as a strategic understanding of risk from our stakeholders. So we can say, I need to start with a risk management strategy. Yeah. Good. Strategy is clear. So you know about attitude. Now, with this strategy, the major thing we do is a risk management plan. Now, this is something very unique to our PMP exam only, and project management, traditional project management work. In general, in this agile working, scrum working, safe working, they don't have it. They don't have an understanding of something called risk management plan. Why? Because they use default. They will tell all risks should be done in this particular manner. Yeah, all risk will be recorded here. We will be categorizing 3 level, 4 level. So they have a default recommendation usually, because we are working in a small pieces. But when we are working in a complex project, just understanding high level strategy is not enough. We need to get into the details. How do we manage risk? So before we work on the risk, we need to come up with our management approach for the risk. How do we take care of it? Now, this could be a very comprehensive document, which may talk about things like what is the approach, what steps we take in order to follow risk. If we follow a particular standard, we explain that. Who is responsible for what related to risk management activity? Who is identifying risk? Who will record it? Who will audit it? Who will make sure the risks are taken care well? We may agree on that. We may also agree on when do you say this is a highly probable. Yeah. How do you rank a probability of the risk? How do you rank an impact of the risk? At what level you do detail analysis? What level you do low level analysis? How do you categorize them? Do you use a particular template which helps you in identifying risk? We call it risk breakdown structure. What kind of risk response planning you do? Yeah, do you follow qualitative, quantitative? And what is your risk escalation process? Where do you identify and escalate risk? How do you communicate about the risk? What will be your template of a risk register? So you will say the whole detailed approach of doing risk management approach. As of now, there are no real risks, but you are saying, okay, which all meetings we do in order to identify risk. Yeah. Once we identify them, where do we put them? Yeah. And when we put them, how do we categorize them? What all categories we should use? Okay. How do we rank a probability of the risk? Who all should be involved? How do we rank the impact of the risk? What are the guiding factors we use? How do we call some risk is a very high risk? And what do we do when the high risk comes in? Yeah. If we have to do an escalation, how do we escalate that? We need to have agreement on it before we really start working on risk. And that thing is called risk management plan. We can browse this a little bit more, but this is the important artifact, because in our project management world, we need to plan everything before we do it. Yeah. So it's a planning for risk management.
One question here. Is
Please.
the ranking is based on the risk score which we calculate?
Yeah, it is based on that. Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, how do we do? Like, is it a higher the risk score will be the high priority or?
Perfect. Yeah. And what is that
Okay.
higher? Yeah, we want to define it in a risk management plan. So somebody will say, if the score comes 5, it is critical for us. Somebody else will say, till 6, I am okay, but after 6, it's a critical for us. We can say, okay, let's agree.
Okay.
Yeah. So that
Okay.
agreement we are making in a risk management plan. Most likely, the risk management plan will be inherited by your organization style. Your PMO may have a ready-made risk management plan, and they will say, guys, follow like this. Because it should not happen in a one project team, a risk which can impact 10 days, you consider it high. In another project team, risk which can impact 10 days, you may consider it not relevant. Yeah. But again, it may be like that also sometime, yeah, depending upon your risk management plan. Because a one project which is of a duration of 1 month, 10 days delays is a super delay. Yeah. In another project where project duration is 1 year, 10 days delays may not be that much. You can say milestone getting 10 days delayed, it is okay. There is a variability associated in a 1 year project. So there could be something which is guided by the organization. We can say, yeah, there are some limitations which our organization is giving, but there could be some specific things which might be related to a project team only. We can say, oh, for our project, this could be the specific thing which we need to keep in mind. So we may have a special risk management plan which you inherit here.
Yeah.
So, sir, I have one question.
Go ahead.
The risk management will be done in the plan driven in a hybrid as well, right? So
Yes.
there is the same way in both of the approach, or there will be any difference? Like in plan driven is something we should do differently, and in hybrid approach it is in different way, or it's the same like.
The essence is exactly the same. So management of risk in a predictive, hybrid, and adaptive, all same. Yeah. Now, what is a possible difference? You may not have a document called risk management plan. That is possible in the hybrid also. That is possible in agile also. Yeah. You can say we just take care of it based on our understanding, but we don't document it. But in predictive lifecycle, in a complex predictive lifecycle project, we do expect we have a proper document called risk management plan. That's it. But without that, the understanding of when do we track the risk, when do we escalate the risk, when do we call risk is a high, when do we call risk is a low, who is the one who is going to talk about the risk, who is the one who is going to present the risk in a various meetings. We need to have a clarity. We need to have a clarity, and that clarity can be achieved by high level understanding, talking to each other and clarifying each other. That's agile way of working, maybe clarified in a role itself, or maybe in a hybrid way or in the predictive way. This clarity can be done by way of putting a document about it. So that's how we can say so.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So Vincent, we are talking about risk management plan. I think you will get it as we proceed, and it's recorded as well. So you will get the previous content as well. Yeah, don't worry.
Thank you very much, Sake.
Yeah. Great. So this is something we call risk management plan. I will take this further. I will get into more detail about it. But see, the whole essence is agreement. So we know risk is an uncertain event. We know that. We know that this uncertain event is something worth keeping eye on, yeah, because we are worried about it. That's a risk. Now, we also understand that organization has their own style and culture. In some culture, these uncertain event doesn't matter much. Yeah. Maybe you can say if we are doing 2-month project, it is going to finish in a 2 months only. Anything can go uncertain. We don't document risks. We just talk. We just talk about it. And that's our risk management strategy about it. Yeah. So you can say we don't have anything artifact about risk. That's also possible. Yeah. We had a strategy of doing informal. Possible. We can't deny that. Yeah. But in a complex predictive life cycle, I'm using a word complex predictive. We are just not saying that all predictive life cycle must have a documented risk register. But in a complex predictive life cycle, we may have a more documented approach for doing risk management. So that's a starting point. Now, after understanding the feeling and thinking about risk of the organization, we come up with a little detailed explanation of it. How do we handle it? And that is called risk management plan. Now, from a PMP exam perspective, it's a very critical artifact. It's a part of your project management plan. That's the word we use. And some of the subsidiary plans which are more critical, like a risk management plan, others are like communication management plan, quality management plan. They are a little bit more frequently used. A risk management plan is a relatively important sub-plan of our project management plan. We call it subsidiary plans. Now, this template, which I will give it to you as well later on to edit, play with it. So we can say the purpose of a risk management plan is to create the project, to create a. So I am giving an example of this. This is not just a blank template. I am creating a website which will sell the shops online. Yeah, it's a retail. There is a mall, shopping mall, and you want to sell the shops for the shopping mall. So we are saying the purpose of this is to create a approach for handling risk at a various level, at various risk management activities for this particular purpose project. So we are saying this is the idea of this document. To ensure all stakeholder and team member align to the approach of risk management, to facilitate effective identification, assessment, and tracking of risk, to enhance the likelihood of achieving project objective by proactively managing the risk. Yeah. So because of that purpose, we are coming up with a risk management plan. And in a way, you can say this is the purpose of the whole risk management activity. So overall, we want to make sure that we achieve our project success in a better manner. So that's your purpose. Then we can talk about scope. It will be only focusing on risk management activities. Yeah. So objective is to create a structured approach, to provide clear guidance, to provide clear roles and responsibility, to provide clear communication protocol, and ensure the risk management activities are done in the timely manner, in the budget controlled manner, and it meets the quality standards. So that's the overall idea of this document. Now we can focus on what is our risk methodology. So what do we do? How do we identify risk? So we can say we will do identification of a risk based on brainstorming, based on SWOT analysis, based on asking people. We will also have a checklist. Yeah, we will use checklist to identify a risk. We will also use a risk breakdown structure and risk register to record the risk. We will also do something called risk identification workshop. Yeah. So you are saying that these are the things as a project team we will be used to identify the risk. Now, risk assessment, we will do qualitative risk analysis. We are not using quantitative risk analysis for this project. So that's a specific example. So you can say we will apply probability and impact, and we will use probability and impact metrics to identify how critical this risk is. So we are explaining our process. Then we will do risk response planning, and we are identifying these are the type of risk responses we will plan. Yeah. So we are agreeing. Exact risk response is not ready. Exact risk is not identified, but we are talking about how are we going to take care of it. Then we will talk about how do we monitor and control risk. We'll explain that what all reports we produce, what all chart we produce to see where we are on the risk, and how do we communicate various risk related things to various stakeholders. So overall, this has to be agreed upon, understood. Now, as Amol was pointing out, if I am following hybrid and agile approach, there could be a fixed 5 steps. You can say we do iteration planning meeting and backlog refinement. There only we identify risk. Okay, so identification process is clear. And in a backlog refinement, we will find out what we will do with the risk. Assessment process is also clear. And based on that, we will prioritize the backlog. Response is also clear. And we will talk about it in iteration review meeting. That's it. Yeah. So you can say that is a usual thing we do in our Scrum or so in our agile way of working. So we don't have to have a separate agreement for that. Actually, that is your risk management plan. That is a methodology you are using for the risk. But in the complex predictive lifecycle project, we don't assume that we will use a ready-made methodology all the places. So we may need to do tailoring. We may need to have our specific style. Sometimes we may not do SWOT analysis. Sometimes we want to do it. So depending upon my organization recommendation, default, they will tell me that this is how you need to manage risk. I will add these elements and come up with the specific plan for my own project. So that's one of the starting point of your risk management plan. I can also give a reference if my company uses some specific framework. Sometimes you have a more complex organization, they use ISO standards or some standards. So I can say those standards will get used here. So here I'm just giving that we are using PMI risk management guideline to talk about risk. So we will talk about positive and negative risk, and we are using also organization standard for risk management. So I can give a reference in a risk management plan. Then I identify responsibilities related to risk management. So I can use something called RACI matrix or RACI table. Again, it is not mandatory. Like Amol's point, do I need to use this all the time? Predictive, hybrid, you may not use it in any of them. You may use it in all of them. So it is more about saying, okay, who is going to manage risk management plan? Yeah, probably develop and maintain risk management plan. So probably you can say the sponsor could be accountable, project manager could be responsible. These are example. Yeah, it could be someone else also. Yeah, we will have a risk owner. We will have a risk management team should be consulted. So we can identify it. Who is going to facilitate risk identification session? Yeah, who is going to conduct risk identification and assessment? So overall clarity here, we are giving a lot of responsibility to project sponsor, but it could be to the project manager also. And we are saying various risk management activities. We are clarifying who will do it. Now, exactly project schedule will vary, but in my company, if I have a 50 plus stakeholders and we have complex mechanisms, so I need to be clear that I may have a multiple people who are doing project management activities also. Like Ramki's point, I may have a multiple agile teams, and I may want to say that each agile team scrum leader has some responsibilities, and as a joint project manager, I have some responsibilities related to risk. So I want to clarify that, guys, you at a team level is responsible for managing risk at this level, and if something goes beyond that, it will come to me. Yeah. So that kind of communication rules, that kind of monitoring rule, we want to have an agreement as related to risk related area, and that is called our risk roles and responsibility inside the risk management plan. Now, somebody will say, I don't want to create it. I can create an overall team charter where we can have disagreement also, no problem. Yeah. But since we are talking about risk, we are saying people should be clear who will do what in a risk management related activities. Yeah. Any question till here? I spoke about the methodology explained in a risk management plan, and I spoke about roles and responsibility clarified in a risk management plan related to risk.
Yeah, one question. So may I take you back to the original slide, like where you have put agenda kind of thing, the table of contents.
Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Okay, so the risk management, is it in a one-time activity, like before starting a project, or or while starting a project, like we'll prepare this risk management plan and say this is how we are going to communicate all the risk?
Yes, most likely the answer is yes, most likely, but it doesn't mean that I can't modify it. So I can
Yes.
prospect, I can improve, that's a possibility. But this is my first approach. Usually in a real project management, as you start project management as a project, you will have a default risk management plan given by your PM. This says, this is your risk management plan. This is how you should do it. You will open it and edit it. It says, oh, this is not relevant in my project. We are not going in this much detail. We will not do this analysis. We will not use this tool. So you are modifying it. Yeah. And with the modification, you take an agreement of that modification with your PMO. And once you agree, you can say, okay, now you can continue your risk management activities, because we have an understanding how are we going to do a risk management activity. Yeah.
Okay.
So it is a good idea to consider it that this is something we have an agreement to start with. And once we have this agreement, it is going to guide our remaining risk management activities. At the same time, if we have a new idea, new innovation, new improvement, someone left the project team, some new technique has to be included, we can improve it. We can improve it by doing lesson learn and retrospective, but it is something which we will start with the thing. Yeah. Anything else, anyone till here? Now, after this, yeah, so you have a RACI. You will also define probability and impact. Yeah. Now, say, most of the time, we will learn about qualitative and quantitative assessment, but you are making a judgment. This is, we will say, okay, how do we give a probability number? Probably you will say that we will give a number between 0.01 to 9.9. Yeah, probability is less than 1 usually. Yeah. Now, you need to have an agreement, maybe some examples and some clarity. When do you say the probability is 50%? How can you make a judgment about 50%? Yeah. So maybe you explain, oh, similar risk has occurred 40 to 69% of the past projects, and this is something historically seen. And if such kind of thing is coming, we will give a medium probability. Yeah. So say in the project for a same type of event, it should not happen. One team is saying it's a medium probability, another team saying it's a low probability. Yeah, there is a possibility they have a specific reason, but assuming everything remains the same. For example, it may rain tomorrow. Yeah. And one project is saying probability is 50%, another project is saying probability is 60%. We can say, guys, what do you mean? What is your source? Why do you say high probability or medium probability? It's the same weather. Yeah. We both are living in the same location. So we should have you may have a different impact. You can say that rain to a project which is done in-house or maybe indoor may not have an impact. The rain or may have less impact, or rain for a project which is done outdoor may have a more impact. Yeah, that's a separate thing. But the probability will remain the same. Raining or not raining, probability is anyway same. So we want to make sure the people have a consistent understanding. So my PMO will guide me, and I also want to make sure in my project I may have a multiple team member, I may have a multiple agile teams. They use consistent definition of probabilities. So in order to do that, I need to define them. Yeah, and that risk management plan is a good place to define the guidance for giving probability. It's not a real probability of a given risk. We are seeing guidance. Or when do you say very low? Rarely occurs. Usually you can say less than 10% of the past project has this particular problem. One of the example, there could be more. Yeah. So we specify when do we call something low, when do we call something high for a probability. That is also we agree in a risk management plan. And similarly, we agree on impact. When do we say something is very high impact, very medium impact? This is a high impact risk. Yeah, maybe you want to give a direct high impact. So you will guide your team, your everyone, that maybe you can say, here I have made it a little complicated, where we are saying we have a possible 4 thing, and any of these things is true, we will call it high impact. Yeah, you can have a 1 or 2 things also. You can say just focus on schedule. If it has a more than 3 months delay, we will call it high impact. But I will say maybe, or it may have a high cost, or it has a significant quality issues, or it has a business impact. Any of these things matching, it will be very high. So I am defining it. What is high? Maybe I define that. What is medium? What is low? I need to define that. Yeah. So when I'm giving a impact rank, I will be guided by these explanations. Yeah. So this is an effort which I am doing as a project manager in consultation with my PMO to make sure the assessment of the risk is done in a consistent manner. So it should not vary from project member or a team member to team member. So I defined impacts. Now there is a word, we call it probability and impact matrix. So in our PMP word, this is an important matrix. So actually it is just a multiplication of probability and impact. So you will put your probability numbers here and you will put your impact numbers here. Yeah. And based on your probability and impact, here we are putting it both the number between 0 to 1. Yeah. Sometimes impact is put between 1 to 10 also. You need to take a standard to define what is a number which associated very high. And then you show a particular range. You can say multiplication of these two numbers will be shown here. And we can say if this is coming, if you have a very low probability and very medium impact, you will call it low risk. Yeah. If you have a very low probability but very high impact, you will call it medium risk. When you have a very low probability and very low impact, you will call it very low risk. Yeah. So we are identifying so risk exposure. Yeah. So as we use the word, risk exposure is a multiplication of probability and impact. So first we learn what is probability, how do we rank it? Then we learn what is impact and how do we rank it? And after learning probability and impact, we are saying, how do we say it's at a risk level, directly at a risk level, not only impact level. It's a high risk, low risk, medium risk. Yeah. So we categorize, and usually a term is used, probability and impact matrix, which shows visually that, if you have, so by using one dimension and another dimension, I can find out what should be the rank of that particular risk, what should be an exposure of that particular risk. Yeah. So sometimes we use rank in that sense, sometimes we use rank in the order of priority. But the core element which defines the severity of a risk is a risk exposure, which is calculated based on probability and impact matrix. Yeah. First you multiply probability and impact, and then you see a probability and impact matrix to identify how should I rank this particular risk. Yeah. So that's your probability and impact matrix. In a PMP exam, it is expected to show up because it is something which is helping us in creating a common understanding. So here I have explained, very high required immediate attention action. Yeah, very high need a close monitored, very low insignificant impact on the project, monitor occasionally, but usually required minimum management effort. So we are defining it an agreement of our stakeholder, and so that we know how we are handling our risks. Yeah, another element in your risk management plan. Yeah,
Sir, I have one question.
please.
During a risk management plan, which factors need to be considered, like geographical locations or anything other else?
So that is our next topic. Next topic means risk breakdown structure.
Okay.
So risk breakdown structure is also a part of your risk management plan. And this is more like a guidance for risk identification. Yeah. You are saying, whenever you are working in your risk, probably you need to consider these categories and subcategories. And there could be a third level also. So you can put it as a three-level hierarchical diagram. And we are saying, oh, you probably need to take care of technical risk. And under technical risk, you need to focus on issues related to requirement, issues related to technology, performance, technical interfaces, quality. You probably need to focus on business risk. Under business risk, you need to focus on market strategies, financial, regulatory. You need to focus on commercial risk. You need to focus on external risk. There could be a category called environment also if it is relevant for you. So now this thing is usually prepared by the organization, and it might be only used in a subset depending upon your project characteristics. So say, if you are doing projects which are very highly regulated, you will have a different categories and subcategories which you want to put attention to. If you have a project which is more customer focused, you will have another categories and subcategories. So as a project management office, we maintain these lists based on historical data. And our objective is we give this list ready-made to our upcoming project managers, so that they can quickly apply it and they can improve their risk management process. So that could be a part of your risk management plan. There could be other things also. You may have a risk checklist. You can say these 3 checklists has to be used in order to identify risk. That also can be agreed in a risk management plan, that okay, these checklists will be used in our risk identification process. Good. Now, whatever you do in a risk management, you need to define in a risk management plan. From a theoretical perspective, if you understand risk management plan, you understand the complete risk management process. If you understand this document, the risk theories are very clear to you. And this document will be a part of your, I will share the email. So that's there. Now, once you agreed upon how do we categorize, rank, and think about impact and probability, then you also think about how do we apply responses. So we have a terminologies like when do you avoid? So we have a response strategies: avoidance, mitigate, transfer, accept, and escalate. So and then we have a escalate is common, so I put it in the end. You can say the risk escalation table is a particular one thing. So we have a process for predictive, the positive risk. We have a process for negative risk. We'll learn about these response strategies in detail. But as of now, here I'm just saying that we need to agree what is a preferred response strategy. Depending upon risk categories or risk characteristics, you can say that such kind of risk need to be done this way. Such kind of risk needs to be done this way. So we are agreeing. We can say, okay, these are the risk response strategies we'll use. For example, somebody will say, we don't use transfer. You can't transfer to third party. It is not allowed. You need to, you don't have a transfer available in your option. We can say, okay, transfer response strategy will not be get planned. So we need to identify that. So here we are giving a detail about our risk response strategy. I will talk about it once we are done towards that level, but here I'm just saying strategy level, you agree. You also identify escalation level. When do you do escalation? You also agree on communication protocol. When do you present risk? How do you present risk? Weekly status meeting, bi-weekly meeting, monthly meeting, quality briefing, and you also talk about where you record your risks. So this is like the full management of risk is defined in a risk management plan. And it is usually more associated with predictive life cycle. It can be used in hybrid and adaptive also, but it is usually associated with complex predictive life cycle projects. Question on risk management plan.
Sir, I have one question.
Well,
If we are following the hybrid approach and there is we are using like 70% plan driven and 30% agile. So in that case, we does risk management plan there or
so say cannot be answered. So the usual answer will be I need to see the question. Yeah, yeah, in the PMP exam. So in a practice, I need to agree with my stakeholder. Do I need to use a risk management plan in a documented manner, or I can just do it informally? Yeah, that's a practical thing. But now, if it is coming in the exam, I need to see what are all the options available. So I can use risk management plan anywhere if it helps. Yeah. So I can use it in a hybrid, even if with the 10% agile, say 10% predictive also I can use it. Or I may not use it if it is not helpful. So by default, I will say that I do have a risk management plan in mind. Is it formally documented or informally agreed upon? That varies. But risk management planning is done. Yeah, always done. So if my question indicates that having a documentation is useful, I will go with the approach where we have a documentation. If my question is not indicating that, the question is indicating that we can have an informal understanding about it, we can go with that also. But we cannot give a black and white answer. Nobody can give it. PMI cannot give it. PMI just says you need to decide based on your organization processes. It's a tailored approach. Yeah. So what is hybrid? We decide ourselves which all documents we will create, which all documents we will not create, which all tools we will use, which tools we will not use. There is no ready-made hybrid available for us for a PMP exam or in our execution purpose.
got it, sir.
Yeah. Anything else still here?
I'm good, thank you.
Good, good, good. Yeah. All good, Vincent. Hopefully you can catch up now. Okay. So we take it from here. So after our risk management plan is there, then we focus on identification of a risk. Yeah. So let's talk about how do we identify risk. So say I give you a little detail and then you need to tell me the risks. Yeah. So say if I give you information, and again, PMP exam will not go into that much detail, but we need to talk. Yeah. I can talk about various meetings and all, but we need to talk little situation. So say you are working on a project. Yeah. Characteristic of a project is estimated duration is 3 to 5 months. That's a range, rough order of magnitude estimate. Team size 20. Yeah. Work location, you can say 5 in India, let us say 5 in US and 15 in India. Yeah, that's the work location. Remote out of 15 in India, 5 working from home, and 10 coming office twice a week. Yeah, that's something is the characteristics. Now, out of 15 team members, 9 are recently hired. Yeah. So now the project is about making online shopping website. Yeah. The product owner the requirement guy, let's use a simple word, the requirement person has an experience in online shopping. Yeah. So just by looking at this information, yeah,
The product owner is based out of US, is it?
yeah, we can put that. Yeah, maybe you can say it. Yeah, yeah, located in US. Yeah, maybe based on this information and generic characteristics of the project. Yeah, there are something which is usually always happen in the project. Now think of some risks. Yeah, how we can probably identify the risk.
So yeah, I mean, I see a risk like the team is geographically distributed and working in a different time zones. It's difficult to coordinate the team,
Okay,
and there would be a communication delays as well.
okay, we can say communication misunderstanding. Yeah,
Few team members are hired recently, so they are not. Uh, they need some
organizational
adjustment.
enablement or
Yeah,
something. You can say that
yeah.
new members may lack the skills to work in environment. Yeah, that's there. Yeah, yeah. Okay. May lack me, yeah, because if they lack, we know already, then it's a issue. Yeah, but if they may lack, then it could be a risk. Yes, yeah, that's a good thing. So what we are doing right now, we are doing brainstorming. We can say that this is something is happening here, and based on we discussed, we are coming up with some possible risks which might go wrong here. Yeah, that's a one brainstorming. What other technique we probably can do? We probably can look at a requirement document, whatever requirements are available. Yeah, if we have an access to it, we can say, let us see what is the overall product vision, whatever is the product roadmap. Yeah. If the product vision and product roadmap talks about some of the uncertain requirements, some of the uncertain ideas, we may put a risk about it. Yeah. So we can do as a technique, we can say document analysis. Here we don't have it available, so we probably can do it. Other thing we can do possibly is we can do stakeholder interview. Say, I will call a product owner and say, product owner, you tell me what can possibly go wrong here. I may call a subject matter experts, maybe a technical architect, and says, oh, we are using this technology. You tell me what can go wrong here. Yeah. I can also see my organization history. In the last project, what all we faced. Yeah. For example, the Ramki's point, we can say we have a 30% people leaving the team. Yeah, so we can have a 30% attrition. Yeah, so we have a lot turnover happening. Yeah, so that could be a risk. Now, again, it depends. If it has happened in the history, then it could be a risk for you. If it has not happened in the history, it may not be a risk for you. So all these things you can ask your team members. Yeah, so it's stakeholder interview. You can ask team members also. Team sharing the risk. They may come up with the idea that these things can go wrong in this particular project. So we can say that there are many things, whatever you look at, you always make some assumption. Whenever you are making a high level requirement, you are making assumption. Whenever you are thinking about team productivity, you are making assumption. Whenever you are doing estimation, you are doing assumption. Whenever you are making your communication protocol, so there are so many things which you are making assumption based on, and any of these things can go wrong. And some of these things may go wrong beyond a level which requires tracking. Yeah? So you need to track it as per your risk management plan. So this is how we do risk identification process. Yeah. So you need to identify a risk, and as Amol pointed out, we can also focus on category. So for example, I say, tell me technical risk. Yeah, what could be a technical risk? Tell me what is a communication risk. We can say there could be a type of communication risk. Tell me what is a productivity risk. Yeah, so that's the risk breakdown structure. In my if my risk management plan tells me, then I can talk about what is the stakeholder risk. Maybe you have a geographical environmental risk, maybe rain and all. that could be also there. So this could be another technique where we can say, oh, we may use these categories to identify. It's kind of a checklist, a high-level risk breakdown structure, which will help us in identifying risk. Yeah? So that is also a possibility. Yeah. So depending upon how structured our organization is and how much documentation they prefer and what all project management framework they have, we may use it. By default, the minimum, we'll definitely do a brainstorming. Yeah, brainstorming is done. We definitely do a document research. Yeah. Now, as Ramki was pointing out, this thing could be future trend analysis also. Yeah, so we just don't think about first time only. You may do a trend analysis to see that my velocity is coming little dangerous trend. Yeah, so I have a defect trend. I may have a productivity trend. Yeah, I may have a escalation trend. Now, when you are usually in the ongoing basis, they are also will give you a risk. You can say, guys, the trend is showing the productivity is unstable, but if trend remains like this, it may be too much unstable. Yeah, the trend is showing it is very difficult to do a capacity planning, and if we have a lack of discipline in our team, if the people keep disappearing when they are working remotely, this is going to create a big mess for our future. Yeah. So again, little bit difference, not current mess, future mess. So a trend can show a current mess, trend can show a future mess also. Yeah. So some when the trend is giving you a problem directly, you can say it's a problem, it's an issue, I need to handle it. Sometimes trend is not yet reached to a dangerous mark. It is still at a tolerance level, but you know that if it continues like this, it is going to hit there. So say you are getting defect from the customers every week, 2, 3, 2, 3. Though customer is not escalating about it, but you see that if the defect remains like this coming from the customer, we may reach to a level where we have a customer escalations. So you can say that if the trend of defect increases beyond 2 defects, which is right now, we may have a situation in customer escalation, which will create a problem for us for our future brand. So in a real working spends, yeah, when we are moving, once we get started, the trend analysis, variance analysis, data analysis, looking at your current performance usually produces lots of risk. When you are doing predictive planning in a predictive life cycle, usually when you are initially thinking about your project contract, project scope statement, project history, the lesson learned, in a predictive life cycle, you may do a lot of risk planning in the beginning, and you may identify a lot of risk to start with. We can say, guys, these all risks need to be taken care. So that's a highly likelihood. In the adaptive or hybrid world, these may keep emerging, but overall, whatever comes in, they are risk, and we need to identify them. So we put them into a risk register as an identification, but these are the ideas which we are working with. Yeah. Any question, comment till here? You have this trend analysis.
That's great. I'm good.
Yeah, good. Yeah, the PDF document which you have, yeah, will have all these things. So we can say that we have a process flow for risk. First, to start with, we can say that overall we create a risk management plan. Then we start focusing on identifying risk. Then we focus on risk assessment, qualitative and quantitative. Then we focus on risk response strategy. Then we focus on the implementation of risk responses, and then we do a continuous monitoring. So this is the 6-step process which usually get done in our project management world. Right now, we are at a step 2. We are saying that we have created a risk management plan. Now we are focusing on risk identification. Here, I have given you a little bit more details as we go further. So identify risk. There could be activities like brainstorming. Yeah, you may engage subject matter experts to identify it. You may do a SWOT analysis as we play with it in our class. You can do a risk breakdown structure analysis. So you can use categories and subcategories to identify source and various risks. Yeah, you may use a historical data analysis to find out what is going wrong. You can do assumption analysis. Yeah, that's there. Yeah, so assumption is usually can be also associated with the trend analysis. Yeah, so that's something you can do. And ultimately, whatever risk comes, you will put into a risk register. Yeah, so that's something is there. And we need to continuously update the risk register. Yeah, risk register will talk in more detail, but it is not just a one-time thing. So we can say that ongoing process is also there. It is something which we need to keep eye on all the time. So that's how I identify the risk. Any question, any example of a risk which you want to dig further, because whole idea is you should be able to relate to it when you are facing questions or interviews talking about risks. So risk identification is a practical topic. Maybe risk management plan may not come in the interview. Yeah, it may only come in the PMP exam because people usually may not have that structured approach for risk management, may not have it. Yeah, but understanding is anyway needed. Yeah, but risk register or talking about some of the identified risk is anyway going to come in your day-to-day working. Yeah. Good till here? Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. So once we come back from the break, yeah, because it's a little tricky topic coming, it's a little long. So we will talk about in detail about risk assessment. So in a risk assessment, we talk about qualitative and quantitative. In a practical word, we will do qualitative assessment more. Quantitative assessment is usually hardly done. Yeah. But in a PMP exam, we need to learn a little bit about quantitative risk analysis also. We can say that we can use some of the possible tools. But the qualitative risk assessment is called a subjective risk assessment. It is more like based on subject matter experts. So we ask our people and say, guys, if this is a risk, so you can say, I can incrementally start working on, and I may want to create a risk register from here. Yeah. So it's like we are creating a risk register. Now in this risk register, as of now, I have possibly a 2 risk. New member may lack the skills to work in the environment. That's a possible risk you are thinking about. Yeah. And you had a communication can be a risk, misunderstanding. That could be a risk. Yeah, that's there. Yeah, here you are identifying risk. Maybe risk number 1, risk number 2. You can give a numbering as well. Yeah, in case ID is also a good idea. And you probably have a risk related to, so say the team may not have collaborative approach. Because of not working together, something that could be, yeah, may not have. That's a one possible risk you can say, because remote working and other things are happening. Yeah. So I just want to have 3-4 risks, yeah, so that we can probably play with them well when we come back. So you have a new team member, you have this, and you may also have a lack of technical skills in the teams, yeah, because people are also new. Yeah, we already spoke about lack of skills. I think that is there. Maybe you can say that working from team size 20, estimated duration, the requirement is thing. Yeah. So we can also say a gap in PO and team language. Since PO is experienced, but team is not. Yeah, team is not in the retail space. Yeah, in online selling, online shopping. So assuming we create all these risk, now we need to say that, okay, do we need to worry about all this? Yeah, or we need to worry about a one more over other. Yeah, that is our assessment. Now, for example, here we are as a 3-4 individuals. We can say, guys, let's think about probability of these event happening, how likely it is. Now somebody will say, what do you mean by probability? We can say use our risk management plan to guide you when do you say probability is what. Yeah, so the risk management plan comes into place. And then we also call it impact. Yeah. So what is an impact? Maybe we can say at a scale of 1 to 10, that can again based on risk management plan, and probably will define the impact. When do we give 10? When do we give 9? As per our guidance in the risk management plan. So we have a guidance which is given in the risk management plan, but now we are asking people to make a judgment about how likely it is. So for example, we can say the probability, we can use only 3 numbers. for this case, yeah, just as a case to simplify it. But that is as per our risk management plan. But assuming our risk management plan says only 3-level probability, low, medium, and high. Yeah. So high, we can say 90% chances, or say maybe more than 70% chances it will happen. Yeah. And whenever we have a high, we give it 0.9. Yeah. For example, we give a 0.9 as a probability number. Yeah. So that's how we define. Now, medium, we can say 50 to 70% chances. Now, again, it's a subjective judgment though. And if that is happening, we will give it, say, 0.5. And maybe low, we can say less than 50. We give it maybe 0.1, assuming. Yeah. So this is how we agreed and said, okay, this is how we need to give a number for a probability based on our subjective idea. And similarly, we need to identify a scale for impact, 1 to 10. Where do you have an agreement? Risk management plan. Yeah, if you don't have a risk management plan, we are confused. Now, somebody will say, in the hybrid, if I'm not using risk management plan, how will I work? You can't work. You need to have a risk management plan, but maybe you don't have it for your project. You may be having at an org level. We can say company level rule is there. Whenever the 50% chances are there, call it medium. So we call it medium because our company tells us so. So in a way, that's a default risk management plan everybody's following. Yeah. Similarly, in the agile world also, you can say that when we call it high impact risk, what makes you call it high? We have an understanding. We have an understanding after talking to each other, and that is what we call it high. Yeah, that we call it high impact. So again, that understanding is also coming from your risk management plan. So here it is becoming useful. So we as a person, we need to agree on, okay, what is the probability here? So we probably need to talk, new team member lack the skills to the work environment. Is it a low? Is it a medium? Or is it a high? Yeah. So now here we might be doing hypothetically, but it may depends upon, we have interviewed these people. Yeah, all these people are 5+ year experience, for example. Yeah, then this probability is low. Sometimes we says, no, we just got these people and they are coming out of freshers. It's a highly likelihood. It's a high chance that this is going to be a case for them. So here we have very less information about this project, but actually this rank depends upon the real information which we have or we dig about this particular project characteristics. Yeah, so that's how we give a number to these things. Yeah. So we finished the probability probably. So a new team member lack the skills. Again, here it's a guessing game. Yeah, whatever you can put, we don't know who are the people. We have not seen their CV. We have not seen their interview records, etc., etc. So maybe we can go with a safer side. Yeah, maybe I can say medium. Yeah, but again, it depends. There is nothing medium by default. So I'm saying it means I'm using a 0.5 as per my guidance. But this is just like we are putting it randomly. Yeah. Communication can be risk. We can say it also depends upon our historical data. So say if our company has been doing remote working for very while, if our company has been working into offshore, onshore working, and we have a very established protocol, yeah, then it could be a medium risk. And if our company is very new to this way of working, and we used to work from a one location only, then we can say, guys, this is a high risk. Yeah, we don't know how to handle it. We will give it a 0.9. So depends. There is no direct ranking. We can't give a ranking based on what we know right now. Yeah. Any question, comment? Yeah. Yeah. So that's how you give a probability. And I hope you are getting an insight that this is how you need to really do a risk management. When I teach in PMP, we don't get into this much detail because we have to cover the whole risk management topic in a 1.5 hour. We just tell what is probability and what is impact. But here we are taking with the help of a little bit more example because we have a flexibility. So team may not have a collaborative approach. Now, again, historical data. When you say that people don't have a working from one place, that's a possibility there. Yeah? So you can say that's a thing. A probability of team not knowing the retail thing and they have a communication gap, you may say it's a low. Yeah, even if they don't know retail, but we will use agile terminologies, we will use user stories and all. We will have a low probability of this happening. I think we will give a 0.1 number. Yeah. So now, right now, we are making subjective judgment. We are not looking at a weather forecast to find out what is the percentage probability of happening rain tomorrow. Yeah. So that's why it is a qualitative assessment. Yeah, it's a subjective assessment. That's the word we use. Most of the project focuses on that only, based on now who will do it. I can involve subject matter experts. I'm not necessarily as a project manager alone doing this judgment. Yeah. I can involve whatever the roles are, technical roles, scrum master, whatever roles are relevant. We talk and we give this particular rank. Yeah. And we are doing a step in a assessment of the risk. And usually this all things is put in a risk register. So we are elaborating the risk register by adding probability and impact. Yeah. So what we have explored till now, we have learned that the whole process of risk management. So we spent time talking about what is risk, what is a risk management plan, and we are done with risk identification, and we are doing qualitative risk assessment, subjective risk assessment right now. Then we focus on quantitative, and then we'll focus on risk response planning, and then we will study the risk register example. So these are the future path, yeah, for our next 1.5 hour. Yeah. So going back to our place where we were discussing this register, let me remove this. Yeah. So now we need to put an impact number. So again, impact also has to be guided by your risk management plan. We can say that possibly if it's a 6 months project, maybe you may say that give a high impact, call it 10, when delay can be more than 1 month in the project timeline. Yeah. Or cost may increase by 10%, yeah, more than 10%. So that way you define, yeah, in your risk management plan, yeah, you saw some examples, and then similarly you have a definition of medium. Now again, here I'm only giving the time and cost. It could be quality, it could be customer impact, it could be escalation. There could be many other things which may also come as a or condition. So we need to identify the definition for high, medium, low, 10, 5, 1, something like that. Yeah. So we come back and say, okay, new team member lack the skills to improve to work in the environment. The probability is anyway, whatever. What is an impact? So you may say, oh, it may require some amount of confusion. Okay, so how long the project will run? We are saying around the 3 to 5 months. Yeah, so 5 months, how likely this can even push us beyond 5 months? I would say that maybe 10-15 days delay can happen because of it. So I will say, okay, let me put a impact of 5 here. I am saying medium impact. I'm putting a 1 to 10 range. So I will put a 5. Yeah, possibly. Yeah, communication can be a risk. Yeah, it could be a risk, but what could be impact? There could be a miscommunication and produce a rework. Okay, how much rework could be? So we do some conversation, brainstorming. Yeah, we may do some judgment on based on that. We can say, oh, up to 4. Yeah, maybe not that much. Yeah, maybe some communication error can happen, but it is around a 4 thing. Now, team member may not collaborate. Maybe impact is around 5 or maybe something. Yeah, not that much. Gap in the understanding and all, you can say if that gap is there, probably the impact is too much. Yeah, because we may take time to fix that gap. So I'm giving it a more or less a bigger impact statement if that is happening, though the chances are less. But if it happens, I'm giving it a higher impact. Let's put it 10, yeah, maybe, yeah, like this. So again, the numbers which I am giving here are pure guessing game. Yeah, but as a project leader, that is the main thing. So you work as a project manager, you work as a facilitator, scrum master. What we are saying here is we are helping the team and the stakeholder to come up to an agreement of probability and impact. And based on this, usually I'm deleting this impact statement and quality statement here. So based on this, we come up with other element, and sometimes we also call it risk exposure, sometimes called score, yeah, or a risk exposure. That's a word we use. And this risk exposure is something which help us in identifying how critical this risk is. yeah, which is usually a multiplication of these two factors only. Yeah, so we probably will say 5 multiplied by 5, it's a 0.25 probably. Yeah, you can say this is a exposure here. Yeah, probably that's the thing. Or 2.5, I guess. Yeah,
2.5.
yeah, that's what I was thinking. Something is wrong here. Yeah, 2.5. Yes. Yeah, so here we can say how much is
3.6.
3.6. Yeah, we can put it like this. Yeah, so we usually in our Excel format and all, you will have a calculation done automatically. But you can say here again 2.5, that something is here, a 2.5, and here it is coming 1. Yeah, 1. So this is your risk exposures. Now, directly, you probably don't prioritize based on that. Again, in your probability and impact matrix, yeah, there will be a definition which says beyond 3, call it very high or whatever. Yeah. So you may say that if the risk is going, so it's a high but low, moderate impact. So you have a probability and impact matrix. And based on that, we will say, oh, this is something considered as a very high, maybe as per agreement. There is a number which shows beyond what level you could call it very high, because people may not want to know 3.6. They will say that 3.6 is a source, but I would say it's a very high risk. Yeah, that's something you will say. Maybe you can call it 2.5. There is a definition of what is called it 2.5. Maybe you can call it possibly medium or high risk, whatever. Yeah, we can call it medium. Yeah, sorry, I should be using the same. So you as per your probability and impact matrix, you will give it a rank. Yeah. So all 2.5 or between 2 to 3 may go into that area. Yeah, here. And then maybe it has a high impact, but probability is low. So maybe a 1 point, probably it will go into a low category. You can say this is a low category. Yeah. So this is something you do as a final risk ranking. Yeah, based on the risk exposure which we have calculated. And this is something as per the guideline which is agreed in a risk management plan, which is agreed by our stakeholders also. And we will give a possible risk rank, or sometimes you call it risk category as per the priority also. But this could be a risk rank which you give to a particular risks. Yeah. So that's how you are doing the. So in a real world, this is what we do the maximum time as a project leader. We are expected to calculate subjective analysis of risk, and we should be maintaining the risk register in this particular manner. There could be other elements of the risk register also, which may also get updated here when you are doing risk assessment. I'm just listing them, and we will see that example in our risk register, which I have prepared. But what could be the element? Maybe a risk category. We may do an assessment of it. We may also talk about risk urgency. Is it something which required immediate attention, or it can be done after 1 month? So we may have a risk urgency assessment also based on this. We may also have a risk trigger that can happen with the help of risk identification as well. So risk trigger is something, this will happen before the risk will occur. So before risk becomes reality, these are the kind of signals we will start getting. Yeah, so we may identify those signals as well. So that's a other thing which you will put it, a date for identification, yeah, date of entry in the risk register, and maybe date of review. Yeah, that's also a possible. And then when we start moving towards risk responses, we'll also probably will focus on what exactly we'll do. But most likely here, we may have identified who is going to take care of this risk. So we may also identify risk owner here. Yeah. So these kind of additional fields may also get updated when we are doing risk assessment. Yeah, but usually the basic thing which we talk about is subjective, which we also call a qualitative assessment, is the ranking of a probability and impact, and coming up with the exposure and coming up with a risk rank. Yeah, this is your emerging risk register.
Yeah, one quick question here. So in the risk management plan, assuming like if I have defined any risk which is greater than a risk score of 2 points. So in that case, if anything comes less than 2 points, should I capture it in the risk register?
So that also you define in a risk management plan, that below what you probably will not record it.
Okay.
Yeah, because it might be too much for you to work on. There could be that you may record, but you don't do anything. You can say, I just keep it here. I just monitor them. Yeah.
Okay.
No further action. Yes. Yeah. Why? Somebody will say, why do we identify and we don't do anything? Yeah. What could be the reason? Yeah. Because it may change after some time. So maybe next month when you are doing assessment of that risk, the impact has increased. So you better record it because you probably want to reassess. But there could be some very, very low risk which you don't want to record because else it will unnecessarily create an issue for you. You can say, yeah, it is something which can go wrong, but I don't want to put in a risk register. Overall guidance coming from your risk management plan as per your organization attitude towards the risk.
Okay. But does that comes under like a risk, accepting the risk or avoiding the risk?
So accepting will go there, but accepting means the risk is registered. Yeah. If we are not putting it, then it is again indirectly it's an acceptance, but it's not a formal acceptance. It's a informal, passive acceptance. Yeah. Anything can go wrong. What do I do? Passive. Active acceptance means I am recording it, but I am accepting it. Yeah. I will see if something changes in future like that.
Okay.
But it's an acceptance.
Yep. Thank you.
We are approaching to risk responses now, but as of now, we are just doing the risk assessment. Yeah, the next topic is a little bit mathematical assessment and then focusing on the overall response strategy. Go ahead, Amol. Yeah.
Sir, risk register recording the risk is a one-time job, or as project progresses, where we keeps adding those risks in the risk register?
It's a ongoing job. It's not a one-time job. You keep adding and you keep modifying the existing risk also. Yeah. So say the communication can be a risk. After 1 month of doing good work, it might be closed now. Yeah. Or it might be a not that much high risk. You can say now still this risk is exist. After 1 month, I am calling it low. Yeah.
Okay.
And it may become 0.1 now, and then it may become a 0.4 as the score, and then it may go to low. Yeah. So such kind of things you can say periodically, maybe every month, I open up a risk register and I say, guys, what is happening? Do we have a risk which probability and impact has changed? So I will change it. There is a risk which may not be relevant now. It is already team is working well. I think I want to close this risk. New member may lack the skills because they after 1 month nobody is new. It's everybody's there. So I think this risk is closed. So I may close the risk. Yeah, I may have a new risk because there is a technical dependency, there is a stakeholder errors, there could be something else which might be discovered right now. I will add it there. Yeah. So it is a running document. It is not a frozen document, risk register, even in a predictive life cycle. Yeah. In the predictive life cycle, we do expect the initial good amount of risk will get identified because we are doing detailed planning. So when we are doing detailed planning, we'll identify more, but we will keep retiring and updating the risk all the time, irrespective of life cycle. In the agile-ish way of working or hybrid way of working, we expect the risk will emerge as we go along, but we are always ready to take care of them because we are only planning incremental releases. So more risk will emerge as we go, will become visible as we go rather than we identify them in the advance, and they will keep closing also. So more transaction will happen in the agile world. Yeah, in the predictive world, maybe less transaction relatively. Good till here. Hopefully this is giving some sense. Yeah, how to probably use it. Yeah, and focus on some amount of theory as well.
Sir, I have one more question.
Please.
Suppose after mid of the project, any new risk arises and that is having more rank, like high risk, that considered high risk. So how we are going to deal with that risk, because it may affect uh, our duration or our schedule, or it may increase our cost, like that. So how we deal with that risk?
Response strategy, definitely we have to deal with and we'll talk. But in general, we need to respond to it. Now, how do we respond? We don't know. Depending upon our current options, it might be sometime the project itself may become risky and says we don't do this project. That's also possible. Worst case scenario. Somebody will say, oh, now I think there is no use of continuing this project. That is also possible. Or you may say, oh, we will request for extra budget. we will request for change in scope, we will request for outsourcing to vendor, we will request for something else. Yeah. So all these are possible responses you can do. Yeah. But we cannot have a default response. It depends upon severity and impact and the overall business case of handling that particular risk. Yeah. So say someone is preparing for a PMP exam and the person has done some risk management already for their PMP certification. During the last 7 days, he take the first mock test. Yeah. First time sitting 4 hours, and he realized if for him sitting 4 hours was challenge and his score was less than 50%, and he know that failing risk is high now. Yeah. He never thought about that before. Now what he does? Yeah. We don't know. Yeah. He has to do something. Probably he will say, let me give it. Even if I fail anyway, it will be a good experience. Yeah. And that will help me to take care of next attempt. Maybe you may live with that risk and go forward with it. Somebody will say, oh, I think for the remaining 7 days, I am not reading anything new. I will only do mock tests. Yeah, and I will focus on time management and I will put more time now because this is a risk of failing. Possible thing. So you are changing your approach. You are doing that. Somebody will say, oh, looks like this is risky. I better reschedule my test. Again, it will cost you some money. I think $60. If you are doing in less than 48 hours, you can do it. But probably the person will say, I think 1 week is very less. I may want to do it after 1 month. You may reschedule the exam. Yeah. So all are possible. Now, you could have identified this risk before. Yeah, then you could have more option to manage it. If you know that there is a possibility of you will be poor in time management and you will not be able to perform in a time boxed manner, if you could identify that risk in early and you could try it out 1 month in advance about that event, you had more time to respond to it. But since you missed doing that risk identification before, you missed responding to that risk before, but now good you got it before you giving the final exam, but still you need to respond. Yeah, so that way we can see in a project management also. Ideally, I should be able to plan it in advance. I should not be getting such kind of surprises, but sometimes you have it.
That's clear.
Yeah, good. Yeah, getting some examples. Okay, now quantitative. This is, you can understand, it is little theoretical only. Yeah, it is not usually if you are involved in less complex projects, which are not regulatory, which are not very bureaucratic in nature, we probably will never do it as an experience. Especially in IT projects, we hardly do that. But in some complex projects, you may need to do it. Now, what is that? This particular work, you're saying, let's come up with the number. Yeah, don't tell me high, medium risk. Tell me how much money I am going to lose if this happen. And give me options, give me scenarios for same. Yeah, more systematic scenarios, number-wise scenarios. So that is your quantitative risk analysis. So for example, you had a risk. Yeah. Now, when you do it, you see a risk here, which is very high. So first you do subjective assessment only, assuming you had a one risk, which is talking about exchange rate fluctuation. And you can say if the exchange rate fluctuate, you may have a high risk. We can say, okay, from our previous assessment, exchange rate risk is high risk. We can say, okay, that is coming here. Now management is saying, guys, we need to have a more detail about it. Yeah. Fluctuation, whatever. Yeah. So you can say that this is something I want to get more detail about it rather than saying high risk. So they may say, show me 3 scenarios. What if the exchange rate changes by 10% in 6 months' time? Okay. Another thing is, for first 3 months, change is 5%. Yeah. Next 2 months, change is 10%. Yeah. And maybe last month, change is 20%. Yeah. Now tell me the scenario and tell me what is the impact on the cost. how the cost budget is changing. So what I do, I probably create a save as Excel file of my project cost budget as an example, and I create simulation. So one of the technique which we use for quantitative risk analysis is simulation. So I can say, let me do a simulation here. And in a simulation, what I do, I create one version of the project with this particular assumptions. And I show that, okay, if this happens, maybe our budget is coming to maybe 250,000, for example. Or whatever is the number. Something is coming in our Indian rupees, for example, INR, because we are focusing on worried about dollar rate actuation, for example. And if this is happening, probably our budget is going to 350,000. And there could be other scenarios also. So we are analyzing that, okay, what if analysis? If this happens, this will be there. This. So I'm getting into multiple variants of my project schedule or a project cost creation. Why I'm getting that much detail? Because the issue is at very big level. It is not a small issue. Why organization probably want to do it? They will decide a mitigation plan, like Amol's thing. What do we do if we have this situation? Probably they will decide better we buy a foreign currency from a bank in advance, in future. And we can say we will buy this much dollar in next 6 months and we want to get it in a current rate only. We want to have a deal with you. Now, bank will be happy to do this deal, but they will ask some extra money right now only. So I'm saying, what is the cost of taking the future money right now? So we mitigate the risk of exchange rate fluctuation in future. That's a one thing. Or we bear this pain ourselves. We will take care of it ourselves and we'll see as and when it occurs. So that could be a judgment which we are taking as a project stakeholder. Sponsors are taking that decisions, but they need analysis from the project manager before they can talk about the real mitigation or response strategies for these risks. So we call it more detailed factual based analysis, and this is called quantitative risk analysis. I gave you the example, but there are little theory around it, which I can show in the slide, in the PDF. Go ahead, Amol. Yeah.
Sir, in a hybrid approach, who will take that decision, sponsor or the product owner?
So sponsor and product owner is the same guy. So say in a agile way of working or a hybrid way of working. Now the problem is for our PMP exam, this is our special problem for a PMP exam. We cannot have a fixed role like Scrum. We can't say project manager will do this, product owner will do this, business analyst will do this. There is nothing final. Now, you may have a product owner, you may not have a product owner. In the question, you may not see a product owner in the question. Then what will you do? So it is not mandated to have a product owner in the hybrid life cycle. It could be a sponsor only doing it, or it could be a customer doing it. So I need to see the question, and based on the question, I need to find out who is the right guy to do it. So in general, product owner, sponsor can be used interchangeably. There is a possibility someone may be having title product owner, he might be sponsoring the project from a PMP perspective. Product owner and customer can also be used interchangeably. Now, if I have to make a choice, the product owner and customer is more matching, which is the main owner. Sponsor is an internal guy usually. But if the product owner word is missing, I will say the product owner type of job can be done by the customer. If both of them are missing, then I can say senior level decision making can be done by the sponsor. But it is very counterproductive to remember in hybrid, there will be a sponsor. In the hybrid, there will be a product owner. We don't know. We don't know what exactly it will be depending upon the question. So what we know, product owner is a high power stakeholder. Usually they can influence budget. Sponsor is also a high power stakeholders. If I see in the question both are available, then I need to see specifically which one is more better, because product owner, in case of both are available, is more product oriented. Sponsor is generically oriented. But if both are not oriented, they can fill into each other role.
Got it. Thank you.
Now we get into little bit of quantitative risk analysis. So here I'm just showing you what is available. After doing qualitative, we as we did in our case, we do quantitative risk analysis. So I have mentioned some terms. Again, you don't have to be very master about these terms, in your real exam as well as in your day-to-day project management. Very unlikely in the interviews and all you get asked about it. But for a PMP exam, you just need to know the term, not the much detail. So whatever I explain to you, simulation, we do it with the help of sensitivity analysis. So we probably can see how a particular variable will impact the other part of the project. So you can say how sensitive the project is on exchange rate, how sensitive the project is on delay. If we have a delay in monsoon, in the rainy season, what will be the impact on the project in the numerical manner? Yeah, so we can identify the monsoon, extended monsoon, short monsoon, long monsoon, all those kind of scenarios we can make and come up with the project budget. So that's a sensitivity analysis. Now, there is a special type of simulation. People usually get confused, when they do a PMP exam, Monte Carlo simulation. So for exam, you will not get asked to perform Monte Carlo analysis. For your interviews also very unlikely, but what it is. So this analysis is more sophisticated simulation. So probably rather than creating only these three scenarios, I use a tool and which may bring a range of exchange rate fluctuation for every day. We can say, because rate can change any day. So we can say, let's figure it out. What are the possible? I say up to 10%, but maybe show a fluctuation up to 10% multiple times during the month, maybe 1,000 times during the month, and create various possibilities. So maybe a one model they create, a day one exchange rate was same, day two it was 10% up, day three 10% low, maybe reverse. So they create various possible exchange rate variations. And based on those possible exchange rate variations, they apply on your project schedule and see how possibly your project will get impacted on the basis of those random variable created. So sophisticated analysis to show you a possible scenarios, and that is called Monte Carlo analysis. So not to be used in a day-to-day work, but that is something you can use for your understanding purpose only. I give a little bit more example, a little simple example, so that you can understand. Assuming you are using project scheduling and you have activities, you have three work. You have a task A, task 1, you have a task 2, and you have a task 3. And you might have done 3-point estimation. In project management word, we use it. So you may say optimistic time, most likely time, and pessimistic time. I'm just showing in a scheduling term. So say you may be saying optimistically, I will finish all these things in 2 days, assuming. Most likely, I will take 4 days here, I will take 5 days here, and I will take 5 days here. Pessimistically, I may take 6 days here, I may take 10 days here, and I may take 12 days here. That's the range. So what I understand is the earliest I can finish this project is 6 days. The late I can finish this project is 18 days. Sum total of 28 days, 28 days. 28 days. And most likely I will finish this project in 14 days. That's there. Now somebody comes and asks me, what is the chances of this project finishing in less than 20 days? Percentage. What chances are there? Is it 50%, 60%, 70%? I don't know. I can't say it based on this data. But Monte Carlo simulation can help me. So what they will do, the simulation will create thousands of possible probabilities. Maybe a one probability says this A got done in 2 days, B got done in 3 days, C got done in 2 days. Another probability will say that A got done in 3 days, B also got in 3 days, and C also got in 3 days. So using this variance, they will create maybe 1,000 possibility, but under these limits only, a combination of ABC. And based on that, they create multi-total. And they may plot that, out of 1,000 totals, maybe less than 500 totals are coming less than 20. So they can show a probability graph. Maybe here I have a days and finishing days. And I can say that in this much time, I have a 50%, 0.5% probability, and I'm reaching to 100% probability somewhere here. So the randomization and creation of that tool can show me how many percentage of their random combinations were coming below 20%. And based on that, we can say, oh, there are 70% chances we will finish in less than 20 days. So that kind of simulation, a special kind of simulation, which is also generating their own ideas and creating more sophisticated data set, is called Monte Carlo simulation. So from exam perspective, for PMP, you just remember that is a special type of simulation. If you end up doing in your real life, then you will be provided tools. Yeah, it cannot be done manually. Yeah, that's the idea. And that is called Monte Carlo simulation. So it is defined as statistical technique which uses random sampling and probability distribution to simulate impact of risk on project outcome. So it creates a little bit trend-based data. That's a Monte Carlo simulation. Yeah. So again, just for exam perspective, day-to-day work, it will not be used. Now, similarly, decision tree analysis and expected monetary value. So sometime you have a nesting. So what is the nesting? You can say one situation will occur, then next situation will occur. So probably you have a good monsoon, good rainy season, and inside the good rainy season, you have a good demand. And then you have a good demand, then you produce this, else you produce this. So you can say rainy season, yeah, good rains. Yeah, so maybe have a yes, no. You can say this is a yes path, this is a no path. This is a yes path, and this is a no path. No, we were not having good rains this particular time. So you can say no. Then there will be a thing. Then you say yes path, how likely it is. Probably based on the forecast, you are saying 60%. Yeah. What is a no path? You can say a 40%. Yeah. So I can say 0.6 probability here. Yeah, I can say 0.4 probability here, something like that. Yeah. Again, you don't have to master it, just understanding is good enough. And then maybe after this, good rain, poor rain, and still you have a high demand and low demand. What is the chances of having good demand even in a poor rain? Probably you can say that 0.2 is the only probability of good demand in a poor rain, and 0.8% chances are that we will not have a good demand if the rains are not good. If the rains are good, a good demand, most likely 70.7% is the chances that with a good rain, we will have a good demand for our product. And maybe still there is a possibility of 30% where we have a good rain, but still we may not have a good demand. Yeah. So now if this path occurs, what is our profitability or what is our impact? If this path occurs, what is our profitability or impact? Similarly, we can identify that. So that kind of nested numerical analysis, rather than only talking of probability and impact, series of events happening and what will be the impact when the series happens. So that kind of calculation is called decision tree analysis. For PMP exam, it is not tested. It is not something you need to demonstrate your skills. You can say there is a possibility of doing such kind of analysis. Yeah. So we stop there because it is not that much critical. Now, on a same line, we can have an expected monetary value. So the word expected monetary value, somebody will can say you can get a benefit of $5,000. Yeah. But there is a chances of 50% chances. So I can say, oh, I will put it as an expected monetary value, 5,000 multiplied by 0.5. So for this particular opportunity, I will say expected monetary value is 2,500. 500. Yeah. There could be another opportunity where I may have a I may have a $4,000 as a benefit possible, but the chances are 80%. Yeah. In that case, yeah, I will create an expected monetary value accordingly. Yeah. So maybe I have a 3,200. So in that case, I will say the second option is better. If I have to choose one of it, I says I will go with this. Though the benefit is coming less, but the probability is high. So expected monetary value is high. I will go with this particular option. So that's one of the way of doing decision making and calculating for the risks as well. So that is called quantitative risk analysis. I know little crash course here, but in case you have a specific query, we can answer. Else I go to risk responses. So for practical project manager job, scrum master job, you can ignore this concept. For a PMP exam, very unlikely to get the question. But if you want to be extra sure, you just need to be familiar with the terminologies, not more than that for a PMP exam. That's it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So now the major thing, the Amol's point, what do we do? Yeah. When we have a risk, how do we respond to it? So this is something we call it risk response strategies. And again, Ramki was also saying, I avoid it or I mitigate it or I accept it. So these all are risk responses. So we have to talk here of positive risk also. We will talk. Yeah, we'll talk about negative risk also. Yeah, but majorly our conversation remain focused on negative risk. So let's focus on negative risk response strategy. Yeah. So as you have been using the word, we have something called avoid. So what is avoid? We'll explore. Then majority of time in a day-to-day work, you do mitigate. Mitigate, I think 90% of the time in your interviews, in your real project management, you will apply mitigate. And then sometime, yeah. So 10% avoid, 90% mitigate. Usually your 100% risk response are taken care with that only. Sometime you may have others transfer. Yeah. So you transfer to someone else. You may have a accept, yeah, for a low priority risk, and you may have a escalate to senior management, and you can say this is something, guys, beyond my level. So usually we spend more time in avoid and mitigate in a real world, and then we can probably theoretically understand others as well, accept and transfer and other things. Now, what is avoid? I do something, I do some action now, so the risk becomes irrelevant. So that risk has been totally avoided, zero. Let's see if we have something like that. If we can do out of our risk, else I will bring new example. So new team member may lack the skills to work in an environment. Communication can be a risk. Team member may not have a collaborative approach. Gap in PO and team language since PO is experienced, but team is not in online shopping. Yeah. So I can avoid this risk. I will say I will only hire team member if I have not yet hired people. If I have not yet hired people, I will say I only hire people who have experience in online shopping. Yeah. So the risk of not knowing domain is avoided. Out of this, there's a possibility again, if we have not hired it, at least this risk will not be there.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, avoid is not always possible. Now, sometimes you may have a poor technological confidence. You can say this technology is unstable. Yeah. You may change a technology. So say I have a risk that attack X is risky. So you can say, let's not use it. Yeah, that's avoid if possible. Yeah. You may have a key resource may leave the organization. Ramki is risk. Yeah. Let's not add that guy in the project. He's a risky guy. If you can do it, you can say a person X is unstable. Yeah. Don't add him. At least in my project. If you can do it, then avoid. So avoid is that changing the whole path in such a manner so the risk becomes irrelevant. It is not always possible to avoid. But I see if the risk has been identified, I first try to avoid it. Because why to maintain a risk when we can just remove it? But if I can't, then I need to do some proactive step, mitigate is the case. That's the 90% time I will do. But there could be some changes which we can do by making some scope out of scope, by making some technology change, by making some tool change, which can say this kind of risk has been avoided. Yeah. So avoid. When you can't avoid, what do? You try to reduce. Yeah, mitigate. Yeah. You try to reduce. So what is mitigate? I can say the risk has a two parameter you learn now. One is a probability. Another is impact. I can say, can I reduce both of them or one of them? By doing something now. That's it. That's a mitigate. So what should I do now so that one of these things goes down? Possibly. So let's see, we can take some of the risk. Mitigate will be easy to pick up the as an example. So new team member lack the skills to work on environment. That could be a risk. So how can I possibly reduce the probability and how can we probably reduce the impact? You can say probability reduction, a better recruitment, maybe clear requirements and hiring people who are expert. That could be you are reducing the probability, still a mitigate. Impact reduction could be plan a training, plan a onboarding process. Yeah. Maybe identify mentors who will mentor the new people. Yeah. Maybe don't give a critical work to them in the start with. All these things will either will impact probability or they will impact impact. Sometimes they can impact both also. You can say, when I am onboarding people, it can reduce the probability of they demonstrating these risks. And even if they do it, impact will be reduced because we can quickly speed up their process. So mitigate is working now. So say if you have a risky technology, you can say we will do some experiments about this technology. Let's train our people on this technology so that we don't have a problem later. Or any other risk which you probably want to talk. Yeah, I gave some example, but I can take it from your examples also where we can explore mitigate. So maybe a team building, team collaboration, we can mitigate by organizing team building activities. We can say, let's do a team building activity and plan for lower productivity in the beginning. Yeah, because team will go through a productivity fluctuation. That could be a strategy to reduce the impact of team's poor productivity on milestones. That's initial poor communication on milestones. Yeah, that's a possibility. Maybe you can say we will bring all the 20 people on the one place for a 1 week. We will bring the US guys here for a 1 week. And I think we will give them a site visit example. So for a 1 week, we all sit together and we spend time with each other. So we'll develop a better understanding of each other. That could mitigate a possible conflicts and possible poor team bonding in future, because people are working remotely, people are working from US, people are working from office. We can say 1 week of co-location we are providing. We are spending money for that to mitigate the future conflicts and future team bonding. That could be a mitigation activity we can do.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Now for just I'm showing to all of you, it will be, I have given these all in a detailed 4 examples. Yeah, which will be useful. Yeah, which will be useful for you to pick up. And if you go through these 4 examples well, they will take care of your good amount of risk management. Yeah. So practically we have a risk register and which has some examples as well. That's the another last 15-20 minutes. I will talk about this particular risk register. So that will also help us in getting this idea better. So avoid done, mitigate done. Now transfer. Transfer usually in a small software projects, you will not be able to do it. Yeah, because you are not authorized to outsource anything, maybe mostly. But sometime when you are working in a critical senior projects, yeah, and you are an influential guy, you probably will create a transfer strategy yourself. Else, probably you need to work with your senior people to agree to transfer. You may not be able to come up with a transfer yourself. So what is transfer? It involves someone else, third party, someone outside ourselves. So what is third party? What is first party? And what is second party? So first party could be client, second party could be you, who is delivering value to the client. So client is asking delivery from me, I am working on it, but I finding a risk, I want to involve someone else. And I say, this risky portion, you need to take care and give it back to me. So it is working with someone to do a risky part. So your risk becomes that party risk. Yeah, that's a transfer. Example, say you are worried about exchange rate fluctuation. Yeah. So you are doing a contract with the bank and saying that I will give you this money. In future, I want to have this much dollar and you need to give me in this much price. Yeah. So there's a contract. They'll say, yeah, we are going to do it. Yeah. And you need to give this much extra money. So now they are taking care of the risk. They are taking care of exchange rate fluctuation risk. If it will cost more money, yeah, it is a bank loss. If it is not fluctuating that much, that's the bank's profit. Yeah. But for you as a buyer, you are paying fixed money. Another example of transfer could be insurance. When you pay a premium for your car insurance, your price, your money is going every year. Yeah. Now you may claim it or you may not. Yeah. But money is going. But if you have a risk, if you have a particular event, the cost of that event is bared by the insurer. Yeah. So insurance company will pay it because they are taking care of a risk of maintenance. Yeah. So that way, I am transferring a big risk of losing big money in some event, yeah, to the company who is buying my risk. Yeah. So they are buying my risk and they are asking money for it. So insurance company does a business of risk trading. They buy and sell risk. That's what they are doing, and they are charging money for the same. So that's a transfer. So transfer always involve third party. So in our general word, for example, you want to develop a component, you are very not clear about that component technical stability, you may want to buy a ready-made component for it rather than developing it. That's a transfer of risk with some clear SLAs that if it will not meet these criteria, we will charge, you need to make sure that it is working. Yeah. So you are transferring your risk of that. You may outsource to a vendor and says fixed price contract, do it in this much price. And if you can't do it, we will charge some penalty to you. But now that the risk of not developing this component is your area. That's a transfer risk. Good till here? Yeah. So avoided, mitigated, and transferred.
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah. Now we have a escalate and we have a accept. So escalate from a PMP exam perspective, yeah, take it as a last resort. Don't escalate frequently. So it should not happen. Some risk came and you are running to the sponsor and or a sponsor / product owner / customer, anyone senior guy. I usually call in my PMP class high power, high interest stakeholder. So you don't want to escalate very frequently. But at the same time, your management also wants that if something is coming which you can't take care of it, why don't you tell us? The sooner you tell us, the better we can take care of it. If you tell us at a very late stage, we will have a very less option available. Yeah. So they do want to get escalated things which you cannot handle. Now, how do I identify what should I escalate and what should I not? Risk management plan. Yeah. So you again go to a risk management plan where you define at what particular situation, at what particular threshold level, I should say this is something requires management intervention. So same time, management want me to, as a project manager, to do maximum work. Yeah. So I should not be escalating very frequently. But at the same time, management also wants to take their options when things are going beyond a level. So I agree in my risk management plan for those triggers. And whenever I breach those triggers, I escalate. Yeah. So as you saw in a risk management plan, we spoke about risks response strategies. We briefed them. And we also gave an example. That document will be with you, that when should you apply which strategy. So there we should have an agreement about escalation also. For a PMP exam, by default, you don't escalate until unless question clearly shows it requires escalation. Yeah. Don't yourself make a judgment that it's a critical risk, I must escalate. You should be doing whatever possible as a project manager, and you should be only going for escalation when the escalation limits are getting breached. Yeah. So you go to your boss. Boss could be a sponsor, product owner, whatever it is. Yeah. As per the question. Yeah. Now, accept is let's live with it. Yeah. Live with risk. We can't take care of everything. We have to just keep them and monitor. Or we will do as things occurs. So usually, as per my risk management plan, I have a clarity when can I do accept. So say maybe the risk management plan says if you are getting a low rank in your risk register, then you probably can do accept. So accordingly, as per our understanding, I do acceptance of the risk when I see this is something possible. Yeah. So I'm just trying to move the frame. So that I don't have to go back and forth. So maybe a one risk score may require acceptance, maybe okay with acceptance. So I will say, okay, we will accept it. Now here there are two parameters, sometimes proactive acceptance and passive acceptance. So there could be one level of acceptance where you don't even recognize the risk. Yeah. So that is an overall strategy. Inside the recognized level also, sometimes we put a joint contingency plan. We can say, guys, let's keep some money or a time as a contingency. Contingency, you keep it as a, it's like a response which is not for a particular risk. You are saying there are 10 risks which we are accepting, but I keep 10 days as a contingency. So if something will occur, we probably will be able to manage it from out of those contingencies. So this we call it proactive acceptance, that you do have a not a detailed plan for all those risks one by one, but you are keeping something in your pocket that if something comes, we will take care out of it. So contingency could be a contingency money. The contingency could be a contingency time. So we will plan our contingency based on our accepted risk. Now, some of you will say, how much percent contingency can be there? How much contingency I can put in a project? So there is no formula. It is not like you can have a 10% contingency, 20% contingency. In your company, you may have it. Yeah, your company may say we keep 10% as a project duration as a contingency all the time. Yeah. For all the possible unknown risk which we can get later on. There's a possibility. But usually in a PMP exam, we call it, we do a reserve analysis. We need to identify, depending upon the nature of our project, depending upon what all can go wrong, we need to find out how much contingency reserve will be needed. And that activity or action of doing that analysis is called reserve analysis. I know a lot of terms in a PMP risk topic, but yeah, reserve analysis, which help us in finding out how much contingency reserve we need to put. Yeah. So overall, we keep monitoring. Thanks to Amol question we said. So these responses also need to be updated frequently. We will keep updating the risk register frequently, and that's an ongoing activity rather than a one-time activity. So that's a negative risk responses strategies. The document which I'm sharing has a written thing. The session is anyway getting recorded as well. Yeah, and you will have a risk management plan which also gives a pretty much backup content.
So is this where like we are using the room metrics, like resolved, owned, accepted?
So see, in a scaled agile way of working, it's a lightweight working. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can say the SAFe doesn't get into this much detail of risk management. Yeah.
Right.
So for them, resolved is equivalent to avoid. Yeah. And mitigate is mitigate, but other are missing. Accept is accept is also there. Yeah, accept is also there. But owned is not a response. Owned is, for in our project management word, all risk has to be owned. What is the meaning of owned? So you can say, yes, resolved is avoided, mitigated is mitigated, and accepted is accepted, but owned is all risks are expected to be owned. So they don't have a transfer, they don't have a escalate.
Okay.
And they don't get into the details of probability and impact matrix. They are just judgment. You can say in a PI planning meeting, we discuss some risk and then we can say it's resolved or known, but they will not talk about doing probability and impact analysis, identifying what can be resolved, what should be mitigated, what should be accepted. So there is no guidance. It's a judgment. Yeah, we can informally have understanding what should be accepted, what should be resolved, and what should be mitigated, but there is no clear-cut definition for it. That's the difference.
Yeah.
In real world, people do have it. Yeah, even if they are using SAFe, they will have a proper risk register most of the time, and they will have some understanding of probability and impact. And ultimately, they may also do a lightweight roaming at the end of a PI planning, but you can have a extra risk approaches as well.
Okay.
Sir, the cost of reserve analysis that will be considered in the budget.
Cost of reserve is the analysis is a part of a budget.
It's considered in the.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So say whatever you are doing as a risk response, yeah, everything is a part of your project plan. So what does it mean? If you are thinking of adding extra training for the people so that they understand the technology in advance, your project schedule should show that extra training. Yeah, that's the one of my another parameter to remind. And your project cost should show that extra money. It should not happen in a risk response mitigation plan. You are saying, I will send people for training and I will make sure that they are, I will spend that money. But in a project schedule, he is working on some task. Then it is not consistent. So I need to make sure the training cost is included in my project cost. The training time is included in my project cost. That's the one thing. Now, what about reserve, contingency reserve? When I am estimating that I need to keep some amount of time and money as a contingency reserve, I need to factor that when I'm forecasting my milestones. Yeah, I need to factor them when I'm forecasting cost. So as a project manager, it's a part of my project planning. The reserve analysis, the contingency reserve is a part of my project planning, which means it's a part of my project schedule. It's a part of my project cost. Yeah, so all these things are part of my project planning.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good till here. So now little tricky, which is more PMP oriented. In your generic Scrum word, safe word, you may not face that. That's a positive risk response strategies. Yeah. So we can say done with a negative, and let's talk about positive. What are the possible positive risk response strategy? So first is positive risks are opportunities which can save money, make us happy. Yeah, we don't have to minimize them, we have to maximize them. The whole approach of positive risk management is maximization. The whole approach of negative risk management is minimization. Yeah, so that's the reverse. So we can say, okay, what do we do? So we have a one strategy which we call it exploit. Yeah, same like avoid, but make it reality. So say in case of avoid, you make it zero, you don't make it happen. In case of exploit, you make it reality. You can say there is a chance of using new technology which can save productivity. I'm using new technology now. Yeah. I'm saying that someone said AI can help you in improve productivity. So I say, I have purchased the license and we are working. Yeah, we are using. That's it. We have exploited. That's it. Yeah. So anything which you want to, you see and you make it happen, exploit. There are some you can do, some you probably can't do that fast. Then the second is like our mitigate, enhance. So enhance is, I can't make it right now, but I do something so that I can make use of it. Yeah. So say, let's do some proactive step so we can make use of this opportunity. Right now, we can't materialize it, but let's get ready for that. So probably, so AI is a good thing which can improve, but I don't have a budget to buy licenses. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a research and preparing a blog or a presentation on how AI can help us in improving productivity. And I want to present that to my management so that they will give me extra money to buy the licenses. So I sense the opportunity. I don't have a money to buy it, but I am enhancing the probability by way of taking proactive steps, by writing article, by writing email, by doing some cost analysis, so that we can probably make people convince about it. Enhancing. You are doing something proactively as a project manager. So you are enhancing the opportunity benefits. Yeah. So these are the two you usually use. Other are more or less same. Yeah. So accept is there, mitigate is there, escalate is there, those are same. Other than transfer, here the different type of transfer share. We can say, looks like my project is not having sufficient budget. and for me, it will be difficult to work on this opportunity alone. I better partner with another project manager. Yeah, and I say him, can we buy license in common? Maybe 50% you use, 50% I use, and we both can convince management to use it. But again, I will only get 50% benefit of it, if rather than some percentage benefit of it. And I am working with someone because alone I cannot exploit this opportunity. So that is called share. So say you go in a partnership mode. You can say we cannot make this happen alone. So let's go in a partnership mode so that we can make it happen with the help of someone. So that way of responding to the risk is called opportunity, is called share opportunity. So you exploit, enhance, or share, or you will say, let's live with it. If something happen in future, I will take care. I just recognize, but I'm not doing anything except, escalate. I think this is beyond my level. I just escalate to product owner, sponsor, customer, whoever is a powerful guy, and probably they can take care of it because it's a beyond my level. Yeah, so that is something. Escalate and accept will be more or less same as we had in a negative risk response strategies. I want to show you that just as a reference, the PDF file which I will share with you, all these responses are written. So in case you want to just read it, there are with examples also. Each response is written with example. So that could be a good handy tool along with the video which we have. And so we do it. Now, once we identify these risk responses, what do we do next? Yeah, so you document them, most likely in a risk register. You assign someone who will make sure that this will get owned up and closed. You update your project management plan. So that's the point which Amol raised. So in our PMP exam, we call it update project management plan, which means you update schedule, cost, budget, resource, training, whatever aspect of project plan need to be updated because of this risk responses has to be updated. In real life, we do see the risk responses are only discussed and documented, but they are not planned. And that's a major problem you will see in your day-to-day project management. So say you had a risk when you are doing product backlog refinement. You thought you will do something, but the action is not there in a product backlog. The action is not scheduled. Yeah, it is just discussed. In our predictive life cycle, though our current focus is more on predictive life cycle because adaptive life cycle risk management has a separate class. Here, we may say we will go for training, but we don't plan a training in a project schedule. We may say that we will have a extra people to do this particular work, but those extra people are missing in a project management plan. So just documenting the idea in a risk register is a starting, but it is not finishing of your risk response. The risk response has to be integrated in your overall project planning, your schedule planning, your cost planning, and then it should be a part of your continuous monitoring and review, which you are doing on your day-to-day basis. Yeah, so you monitor, review your risk on a regular basis so that you can really find out what is working. Now, continuous monitoring of risk. In a PMP exam or without PMP exam, whenever you talk about weekly management report, monthly management report, there is a highly likelihood you highlight key risk in your reports. Most of the organization will insist, as per their risk management plan, as per their tracking rule, that you as a project manager must share the critical, typical risks on a frequent basis in various management reporting. Yeah. So you need to share risk in your management reports. Now, which risk depending upon your risk management plan. Usually they will say top 3 risk, top 4 risk, and their status has to be presented in the meetings. Now, other than those meetings, we can have a special word, and that word is called risk audit. Yeah. So as we learned in the agile world, we do retrospective. In non-agile world, we do our lesson learned meeting. We are reviewing things. So whenever we are reviewing, we also need to review how effective is our risk management approach? Yeah. Are we really doing risk management right? Or are we really following what we have agreed in a risk management approach? Or we have an agreement on something, but we are doing something else. There is a possibility. So we need to audit. The word risk audit is usually a process where we conduct and check our risk documentation, risk responses, the integration of risk responses with the project schedule to find out how effective is our risk management practice. So whenever you see a word risk audit, it is a auditing, is it a checking of your risk management process to improve your risk management activities. So we need to do risk audit in our project frequently. You can say once in a 3 months, once in a month, you may have a review of the risk management process, and that is called risk audit. In case of agile way of working, it could be a part of your retrospective meeting. So in a retrospective meeting, we may discuss, are we doing good prioritization and management of our risk? Have we did a good sprint planning? Have we identified the risk? Have we really taken care of those risks during the sprint? How can we avoid the mistakes which we have done in a current iteration? What should we change in our risk management approach? Should we change our risk categories? Should we change our risk responses in the future so that we do a better risk management? So that's a word, we call it risk audit. Yeah. Now, another thing you do for risk monitoring is a risk reassessment. So risk reassessment is like involving reevaluating, retiring the risks which are not relevant. So you are reviewing each and every risk. So usually what happens if I'm a project manager, yeah. So say at the end of the week, I will do variance analysis, I will do risk analysis. So say I need to present a weekly status report. Yeah, it could be monthly also, but I'm just taking an example. And as a weekly status report, assuming every Friday, I need to send a weekly status report to my management. So in my weekly status report, I need to talk about top 2 risks. Yeah, that's the expectation from management. Now, before I talk about 2 risks, I will open my risk register and see, is there any risk which is already closed? I will close them. I will also check, is there any risk where probability and impact is expected to be changed? If changed, I will update it. And I will have an updated risk register. And after that, I will identify the 2 top risks which I want to share in my management discussion. And I will also identify, is there any risk which required escalation? Yeah. So escalation or sharing, I need to identify based on what we do after reviewing my risk register. If I don't review my risk register, my management will keep getting the top 2 risks always the same. Yeah. So that's the one important thing. Now, during this week, if I have a new risk, I will add there. Now, how do I identify new risk? There are a few ideas. I may do variance and trend analysis. I will say how we have met customer expectation. What are the gaps we have? Where we have missing things? Yeah. And based on those variances, what are the future trend? How things will evolve over a period of time? And based on that, do we have any risk? Say your cost is coming far more than your initial estimates, and that might be triggering a significant cost overrun risk. You need to point that out. So you will see the variance is a word which is more relevant for predictive life cycle because you have a planned versus actual. Variance may not be that much relevant for agile. Agile is more like a trend analysis. I may see my velocity trend, I may see my defect trend. Yeah, that's a relevant thing I do. But in case of predictive lifecycle, I may also do an actual versus analysis. So that is something I'm doing on a weekly basis. It's a part of my project performance review. It is not risk management activity alone, but when I'm doing project performance review, I'm doing risk identification also. Yeah. So I'm doing risk management as a part of my project performance review. So that's another thing. The Amol was asking, do I need to identify risk continuously? Hopefully this is making now closer to the story. Now, technical performance assessment. You may also have a technical review of your weekly work. Yeah. The project status review may only talk about schedule, variance, cost, and all those things. But technical review may talk about code quality, defect, customer demos, feedbacks, reworks, yeah, the reliability. So you may do a specific review of your deliverable alone. Yeah, maybe a software or a product which you have prepared. Using some subject matter experts, you alone as a project manager may not be expert of doing it. But with the help of subject matter experts, you will do a technical review of your deliverable. That may also trigger a risk. So you can say that I need to know where we are. And I can only do it when I review my periodic performance critically, because current performance gives me an idea of what can go wrong in the future, which may result into identification of a new risk and maybe identification of some more idea. Now, reserve analysis, as we discussed, is also a continuous process. So I may have some contingency reserve, but after looking at a new set of risk, those reserve may not be sufficient. It was part of my budget, but now I may need money which is more than my budget, maybe also possible. But somebody will say, how can you ask for it? That's the reality. That's the situation at hand. Now I need to show it to my management. That Amol's point, now if you later on realize that this is a new risk has come and it has an impact on your budget, how do you work with it? So as a project manager, my role first is I make people see the reality. Yeah, so I need to show where we are. And the next work which I have to do, show the current reality's probable impact in future. If our trend remains like this is where we are heading, and this will be our situation after 2 months, after 3 months. So I need to give that forecast. And if that situation requires for more money, requires for more time, I need to ask for it. So I need to demonstrate my current risk status. I need to demonstrate current reserves available to me, contingency buffers available to me. And also need to talk about, are these buffer is sufficient or they are more than we need more. Now there is a word, a little bit, I'm extending Amol's question. So there is a word called management reserve. Yeah. So little PMP topic now here. So we have a word about reserve analysis. This is a little bit cost management topic, but everything is interconnected. So we use a thing, your project cost budget. We sometimes also call it cost baseline or a cost budget. That's a term we use. And in that particular thing, we have a sum of estimated expenses plus contingency reserves. Yeah, so that's something we call it. So contingency is always there. Yeah, whatever. Yeah, my spellings goes here and there. So that's a cost baseline. Yeah, not boast. At least I make this one. So that's the word we use: cost baseline, cost budget. But on top of it, management may want to keep some more reserve to it. So we also use a word called project budget. Project budget is controlled by management. Management could be sponsor, could be product owner, could be customer, depending upon what you see in your question. Someone who is senior, but we call it management. Yeah? So management controls the project budget, where they say that, okay, we want to create a cost baseline that anyway coming from the previous calculation. And they may keep some money in their pocket, which they call it management reserve. So sometime when your contingency reserve is finishing, you may need to request for management reserve, and that is also you need to show. But management reserve cannot be consumed by project manager without approval. It is with the management people. So that's a word we need to be a little careful. But contingency is always part of baseline. Management reserve is not part of baseline. But when you are showing your situations, maybe management may want to give a money from their management reserve. Management may want to cancel the project. Yeah, depending upon what is the situation, anything can happen, but that is something difficult to predict. So we do a revised reserve analysis. We see what is the current situation. Can our contingency takes care of it? Do we need to allocate more contingency? Do we need to take money from management reserve? Or do we need to do some change in scope, some drastic step? But my role is always showing where we are and how should we move forward. And I keep documenting the risk register and other stuff on a regular basis. Yeah. So that's a overview, detailing, understanding of risk management. If you go through it, I think it is good enough for your day-to-day work as well as for PMP exam. The documents which I am attaching is important. If all good, then I want to talk about risk register example. Good till here? Yeah. Should we take few risks from a risk register so we understand it a little bit more? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
please go ahead, sir.
Great, great. Thank you. Yeah, we have around 10-15 minutes. So say each risk register will start with a risk ID so that it becomes easy to track and all. Yeah, most likely you will have some software or system. You can have an Excel oriented risk registers also. Or maybe if you are using Jira, you may put a Confluence page for risk register also. That's a possibility. Yeah, or you may have little proper managed tool. Yeah, but somewhere you will have a place where people can also view it. Authorized people can also view it. It's not only with the project manager. Yeah, and you should be updating it on a regular basis. So that's the place. By default, you can assume it as an Excel file. So you give a risk ID, you identify which date you are entering this particular risk. Yes, you may have a lot of risk identification early, but date is important. Now you define a risk event. So here I'm saying there is a potential risk of conflict in project requirement due to different opinion and expectation from key stakeholders. So you are saying the key stakeholders have a different perception about our requirement. Okay, so that's a risk. In a PMP language, I want to clarify as a positive or negative. I'm saying it's a threat or opportunity. So I'm saying it's a threat. Yeah, so it's not an opportunity, it's a threat. What is the cause? Why we have this risk? Different opinion and expectation, the different value system. That's the subjective cause. Effect, delay in the project timeline, increase in cost and potential rework. Yeah, because of this conflict. Now, little bit important area, which is a trigger condition. Yeah. So trigger condition is something which we refine as a thing which will come before the real risk will come. Yeah. When these things are happening, you know the risk is about to occur. We are heading there. So say disagreement during the requirement meetings. So we go to a requirement meeting and people are fighting about the requirement. We can say looks like the expectation mismatch risk is about to occur. Or conflicting feedback from the stakeholder during requirement validation. You give a demo, one stakeholder is saying great, another stakeholder is saying it's useless. You say, okay, I think the risk of conflicting requirement is about to occur. So these are the trigger which occurs before the risk is occurring. So I identify proactively these are the possible triggers so that we are vigilant about them. That's a part of your risk register. Then you also do a categorization. Now, categorization is useful because you may have some kind of owners. So say all requirement related risk may be owned by business analyst, may be owned by product owner. So I say categorization help me in focused conversation about the risk. It also helps me in identification of the risk. We can say, oh, it's a requirement category risk. Now, how many categories we will have? Depending upon risk management plan. In your company, you may have a drop down. You can say you need to choose it from available categories only. There's a possibility. But here I am just saying requirement as a category. Urgency talks about, do we need to act on it immediately or can we take care of this risk after 1 month? Yeah. So again, a judgment, you identify that it's an urgent thing. You need to do it now only. You can't postpone it. So this section I am showing you is a risk assessment section. So we had a first section where I am talking about risk identification. Yeah. And then I'm giving a demo of this tool because it is anyway with you so that you can play with it. This section is about risk assessment. So I can say I do a category assessment, I do an urgency assessment, and then I do a probability and impact assessment. Yeah. And based on that, I calculate a risk score as we did. I think this is something clear to all of us. But again, it has to be guided by a risk management plan. Now, after that, we focus on risk responses. Yeah. So we can focus on, to start with risk responses, who will take care of it? Risk owner. Now a safe word, owned itself is a response. Yeah. But in our case, owner has to be there. Yeah. It has to be something. So by default, project manager is the owner of all the risks. Yeah. But here you can say, oh, this is a business analyst thing. I want to make a business analyst owner of it. I says, guys, you need to take care of thing. So I'm saying a particular person who is a business analyst, he's a risk owner. Now, what response strategy we are putting? We are saying mitigate response strategy at a high level. Now, what actions we are doing to mitigate? So we are saying,
Sir, I have one question.
please.
It is mandatory to assign a risk owner for a particular risk.
For a PMP exam perspective, it is always a good idea to have it. If nobody is there, the project manager is the owner. Yeah. So default owner is a project manager. but you may want to have someone to look at it. Yeah. But hypothetically speaking,
But sir,
accepted risk may not have owner. Go ahead. Yeah.
okay, okay. Suppose sir, there is a technical risk, but project manager is mostly dealing with the project management related things, and in that case, who will be the risk owner?
That in that case,
Is
Amol, it is
the
more important to
technical
have a
team?
risk owner. Yeah. So Amol, that is more important. So if there is an area where you have a lesser skill, but there is a risk. Yeah. So for you as a project manager, it is more important to have a risk owner there. Yeah. Because you should be able to talk to that person says, guys, what is happening in this area? So now who will be depending upon your overall organization structure? It could be a system architect, it could be a technical team leader, it could be a senior engineer. You need to identify someone and you need to let the person know that this is the risk you are owning. You can say this risk I'm putting on your name, and probably you will get a frequent update about it. And you tell me what should we do, because it's a you are the owner. You can only tell me how can we mitigate about it.
So project manager will decide who will be the risk owner, or the product owner will decide, or sponsor will decide.
So, as I said, in a PMP exam, it is difficult to tell. Yeah. It depends upon your project organization chart. Yeah. So, what is the power and all? But for a PMP exam, by default, project manager, yes. Yeah, if that part is not clear, project manager should make sure the project management is done well. Yeah. So, project manager should be working. Now, can I just assign someone as a risk owner, another person is not ready to own it up? Probably not. We can say we know as per the individual's roles and responsibility, as per individual's technical capabilities, we understand who is expected to take care of which area. And based on that, I allocate risk owner, and then I work with that person to make him understand that he's owning this risk. Yeah, but if he has a reservation, then we need to find some other owner. I can't force people to own the risk. Yeah. But if there is no risk owner, I am in a problem, because ultimately this risk is going to occur and we are clueless about it. Yeah. Without ownership, I can't mitigate it. I can't have a status about it. That's the whole point. Good. So I identify the owner and I work with the owner and I says, what is the strategy, guy? What are you going to do it? He says, I will do this. Then I talk about actions. What actions you want to take for this mitigate? Yeah. So actions is we will facilitate requirement alignment workshop. Okay, that's there. We will have a clear communication channels. We will document and prioritize requirement. We will have a conflict management protocols, and we want to have an update on such kind of things on a regular basis. So these are the 5 actions I am taking to mitigate this particular risk, or I'm planning to take for these to mitigate this. As of now, I'm planning to take to these particular risk. Yeah, so that's a good thing, and we can say this risk has been revised on the 5th, 7th of July. Now, when I'm revising, I can also ask what is the current risk status. It is still open, and I will ask people comments and updates. So as a project manager, I'm doing weekly review, and I give a call to the technical guy. Technical guy, that risk was assigned to you. Yeah, you were the owner, and we agreed to these steps. What is the status right now? What is happening? Yeah. Is there anything we have done for that particular mitigation activity? Is there any update? So give me update, because I want to make my risk register updated, and accordingly, I will also update if I will see it required an escalation or not. So for each risk element, I will have a frequent update added. Yeah. So I will say here as an example, initial workshop scheduled for 8th of July. Yeah, so here I can say something like that. Weekly progress meeting established with all stakeholders. We have a first level draft of the document requirement shared already. We are continuously monitoring and stakeholder alignment and addressing any emerging conflict properly. Yeah. So we do a status of risk. We are saying, okay, this is where we are. So it is at this level, then the whole story becomes complete. And it's a regular job. It is not like you added the risk and then you are done. Yeah. So you identify the risk, you have a response strategies. And again, my goal of making this Excel file for you is just to educate. Again, you may have a plus minus here and there, but here are some risks which can help you in understanding it. We can take risk 3, which is a transfer thing, and a risk 4, which is an opportunity. Risk 2 is same. Yeah. So where. So risk 2 was a weather fluctuation. The extended raining season may cause significant delay in employee reaching to the office due to worsening traffic condition and flooding. Yeah. In our area, it could be a risk. In Mumbai also, I think it could be. I think most of the Indian city are prone to this risk nowadays. So it depends. Yeah. So you talk and you need to respond to this particular risk. Now, there is another risk. There is a risk of critical IT system failure due to the use of outdated infrastructure. So assuming you are using some outdated infrastructure, and these failure can result in significant downtime, data loss, and disruption for business operation. It's little technological and big risk. Yeah, technical risk. I may not be owner of it in general. So I will say it's a threats. It's the where is the source of the risk? Outdated infrastructure. We have old infrastructure, guys. What is the impact? Financial impact and reputation damage. And that's the impact. Okay. So what do we do? Yeah. So risk trigger. Yeah. Increase frequency of system downtime. Frequently hardware failures. A lot of incidents coming in. Risk trigger. Category technical. Yeah, we can say moderate is your urgency, not so high. Then you have a probability and impact on all those things. I can assign IT manager as a risk owner. Yeah, and we decide to transfer it. We are saying we are transferring and we are outsourcing infrastructure. Probably we are going to some third party company, cloud company, and we will use vendor work. So we decide to outsource this infrastructure. And in order to do an outsourcing, we need to go for vendor selection, contract negotiation, and regular monitoring and review. So this is something we are taking as a transfer strategy. As of now, this is the high level idea. And then we can say what is done. Yeah, till now, initial vendor selection is in review. We are working on identifying the right SLAs, and we'll take care of this risk with the help of transfer. Yeah, so that is something you are working on. I hope this gives you a clarity of how can you grip it well. And the positive risk is AI. So cost saving, introduction of new AI tool, positive feedbacks. We can come AI capability building. So you can take these triggers, and then you take actions, and then you can also review how we are doing. Yeah. So I will share this file with you. I will share risk management file with you, and I will share a note of the class. So these are the 3 documents I will share with you. Yeah. So one is a kind of story of whatever we have covered in the class, and risk management plan and risk register. And there will be also a sharing of a recording of this session. In case if you have done some PMI certificate already, then you can also claim a PDU for this certificate, this class, this session, which is a 3.5 PDU. You can use it for renewal purpose. Yeah.
Sir, I have one question.
Please.
Recently, I have applied for a PMP exam, and I have faced difficulties regarding this topic. So I'm facing difficulties to identify the question is talking about exactly avoid or mitigate or transfer. So is there any trick or any strategy that I need to follow and identify the question?
So see,
And how do I face the
in a
questions?
simplistic manner, avoid makes probability 0. Yeah. So the future chance will become 0. That's the avoid. Mitigate, the risk remains. The only thing is it will reduce. Yeah. So whenever the word eliminate is coming, yeah, you are eliminating this risk. You are changing the approach. You are changing the direction. You are like doing drastic movement. Then you are doing avoid. When you are doing incremental mitigation part, you will be able to get it. But in order to support you, that one, yeah, I can do one thing. I share one further thing for a PMP exam perspective. So PMP exam is based on, we call it exam content outline. And on our website, we keep posting various PMP style questions. And we have a summary made with the help of our PMI ECOs. And you have a one exam content outline topic, which is about risk. Yeah? So you can say assess and manage risk. This is here. And here you have various questions. Yeah, these are around 10, 15 questions, more than that. Yeah, here. And each question is having the 4 choices. Yeah, there is a proper question here. And so I explain the question, I give the question, then I explain the answer. And I also have a video explanation of this question. So I believe if you watch these 15-20 videos related to risk topic after our today's class, you should develop a skill to take care of risk management questions with ease.